Chapter 1465. Luli stood still and observed for a moment. He was sure that the body was not scratched by something. The body must have been scratched by itself. In the end it was scared to death. What did he see? Luli checked with curiosity but found nothing. The cliffs on both sides were as smooth as a mirror. There was nothing special about them. Luli could not afford to be careless. He walked forward slowly, using psychic power and his eyes to check the surroundings. Blood Fairy, if anything happens when we reach the body, take me back or move forward. Do not linger around there. Luli stopped when he was about 100 feet away from the body. He said something to Blood Fairy and then moved on. Based on the previous 2 levels, Master of Ghost liked to use a combination of move. There would be more than one type of attack in each level. Up ahead, where the body was, the second type of attack was likely to come. 100 feet, 100 feet, 100 feet. Luli's footsteps were getting slower and slower, almost stopping after every step. He was in a highly concentrated state. He would be alerted to any unusual movements around him and react accordingly. Buzzing, when Luli was close to the body, something happened. The wall on the left suddenly lit up. Out of instinct, Luli took a look. The wall on the left glowed, and there was a deep handprint. Apart from the handprint, nothing else happened. The handprint was not dangerous. Instead, there was something strange about it. One look and Luli could not move his eyes away. In the handprint, there seems to be something strange about it. Luli was intrigued. Out of instinct, he stayed in the handprint. Gradually, he became confused. Then, he closed his eyes and stood there. The immortal's body stood there as well. Luli's situation put Blood Fairy in a difficult position. Luli did not seem to be in any danger, but he was standing still. Should she take Luli forward or backward? All of a sudden, Luli yelled in fear. Without any hesitation, Blood Fairy grabbed Luli and stepped back. At the same time, she said to Luli, "Master, wake up. Wake up." Maybe it was because of Blood Fairy, Luli trembled. Then, the fear on his face faded away. He did not open his eyes. Instead, he kept his eyes closed and breathed heavily. Whoosh whoosh, after the time for one incense stick to burn, Luli opened his eyes slowly. There was still lingering fear in his eyes. He finally understood why the corpse in front of him had scratched him to a pulp. He also understood what the Ghost King's combination punch was. That palm print seemed to contain a very powerful Dao rune, but that was actually an illusion. It was deliberately used to lure the intruder to see it. As a matter of fact, the palm print contained a powerful soul attack. Just now, Luli felt hundreds of ferocious ghosts with ferocious faces were trying to grab at him, trying to drag his soul out of his mind. Luli wouldn't be so alarmed if this was just an average formation of illusion. Luli felt that the feeling just now was real. If the immortal's corpse had not brought him back, he felt that his soul would have been dragged out by the ghost. Fortunately, I told Blood Fairy just now, Luli exclaimed to himself. He calmed down a bit. Now that he knew there was something wrong with the palm print, he should be fine as long as he didn't look at it. Go! Luli strode forward. The palm print glowed again when he came to the original spot, but Luli ignored it. What happened next shocked him. He did not look. However, when he took a step forward, the scene in front of him changed again. From all sides there were many ghosts. Blood Fairy, take me forward. As soon as the scene changed, Luli sent a message to Blood Fairy. The immortal's body grabbed Luli and rushed forward. About 30 feet later, Luli noticed the scene had changed. He found himself in the valley again. Okay, Luli nodded and moved on with the immortal's body. It was fortunate that he had this puppet. If it were someone else, they would not be able to move at all once they were trapped in that illusion. In the end, they would end up like that corpse, smashing their own bodies and destroying their souls. Moving on, the waves of silence grew stronger. Luli did not feel any pressure. The dragon's soul could stand it. The dragon's soul could consume as much soul energy as it could absorb. Well, the dragon's soul has consumed so much energy. Will it evolve? Luli was curious. He remembered that when he consumed soul crystals, a lot of energy would be absorbed by the dragon's soul. Also, the dragon's soul would protect its master on many occasions. In that case, was the dragon's soul alive or something like the soul of an artifact? Who could be sure that the dragon's soul would not evolve when it had absorbed so much energy? Well, another corpse. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Luli found another corpse. This one was different from the previous one. He looked peaceful, as if he had fallen asleep. You must pay attention to the path ahead, Blood Fairy. Once I stop moving, immediately lead her forward. If I still do not wake up, come back at once. Luli said and moved forward slowly. He came to the side of the corpse. On the right side of the cliff, there was a shadow of a fist. Luli used psychic power to check, only to find that the shadow was like a swirl, trying to suck his soul in. Whoosh! The immortal's body reacted quickly. Seeing that Luli had stopped moving, the immortal's body carried Luli and rushed forward. About 30 feet later, Luli felt the sucking force was gone. He waved his hand and said, "Okay, Blood Fairy. Well done." Luli could sense the strange Tao in the shadow of the fist as well. It seemed to contain the prototype of fundamental principle. But Luli knew very well that it was not fundamental principle or Tao. It was a trap that could destroy a person's soul. Let's go. Now that he had seen through it, Luli had nothing to fear anymore. He moved on with the immortal's body. For Luli, he had almost passed this level. With the help of the dragon's soul and the immortal's body, this level was not a problem for him. Along the way, they saw another 3 places with Tao. The immortal's body took Luli through them in time. 2 hours later, Luli and the immortal's body finally made it out of the valley. There was no mountain up ahead. Instead, it was a deep valley. Down below was boiling lava, with heat waves, black smoke, and bubbles. A chain as thick as a person's head stretched across the deep valley and penetrated the natural moat. Luli looked into the abyss and then at the chain. Eventually, he fixed his eyes on the smoke and clouds in the sky. This level seemed to be easy. All he had to do was dash across the chain and cross the deep valley. But somehow, Luli sensed danger, extreme danger. The lava down below seemed to be regular lava. If it were the lava from the lower universe, Luli could soak in it for years and he would be fine. Chapter 1466. This time, Luli was not in a hurry. He sat down and rested for a while. Sharpening the axe would not delay the work. After half a day's rest, Luli observed the surroundings quietly. After a while, he began to make stone golems. As his hand glowed with a yellowish glow, stone golems came into being around him. After dozens of stone golems were made, Luli controlled one of them to jump into the canyon while he checked with psychic power. Whoosh! The stone man smashed into the magma like a boulder, but the magma didn't explode and didn't even create a puddle. Before the stone golem could get close to the lava, it turned into ashes. By the time it fell into the lava, only ashes were left. Hiss, hiss, the stone golems were formed from stone, and the more the stone burned in the flames, the harder it became. However, before the stone golem could get close to the lava, it had been burned into ashes. If I fall in, I will die for sure. Luli came to this conclusion. His thunder armor seemed strong, but it could not stand the heat of the lava for a moment. Once he fell in, it would be hard for him to get back up. Stone golem, go along the chains. Luli ordered one of the stone golems. The stone golem flew up and dashed toward the chains. This place was dangerous and the situation was unclear. Naturally, Luli would not let the immortal's body take the risk. The immortal's body was of great help to Luli. Whoosh! The stone golem was fast. The bridge was only a few thousand feet long. If everything went well, the stone golem could make it across in an instant. How could everything go well? The answer was no. The stone golem was only 30 feet away when something happened. There were many clouds floating in the air. As the stone golem approached, the clouds began to tremble. Then, they formed into swords and rained down. If it were just regular attacks, Luli would be fine. However, the swords formed by the clouds were imbued with the force of heaven and earth. Even from 30 feet away, Luli felt he was suppressed by the force of heaven and earth. He could not move. Boom! The stone golems that could not move were struck by hundreds of swords, but they were not sent flying. Instead, they were pierced through and turned into rubble that filled the sky. The swords disappeared in midair, and then floated back up. Luli pulled a long face. After a long while, he sighed and said, "Ghost King, are you still human? Setting up such a perverted checkpoint, is this something that martial artists of our level can pass?" It was a land of death below, and the only way to pass was an iron chain bridge. Once on the iron chain bridge, one would be suppressed by the power of heaven and earth, and would be attacked by an extremely powerful sword formation. Needless to say, Luli knew he could not make it with his current abilities. At least as soon as he stepped on the iron chain bridge, he would be suppressed by the power of heaven and earth, and could not move at all. Since he could not move, how could he walk to the other side? The only way was to let the god corpses carry them through? But could the god's corpse withstand the attack of the sword formation? Luli gazed into the distance. The further he went, the thicker the smoke was. The color of the smoke had changed. It looked dark. It must be more horrifying. Powerful people couldn't enter the Ghost King Palace, so how could the weak make it through? Was the Ghost King trying to give people endless hope and then make them despair? "Master, why don't I try controlling the god's corpse, while you use the whip to bind the god's corpse?" Blood Fairy sent a message. Luli thought it was a good idea. If the god's corpse was smashed off the iron chain bridge, he could pull him up with the whip. Luli took out that silver whip and wrapped it around the god's corpse's waist. Then, the whip stretched out infinitely. The god's corpse slowly walked toward the iron chain bridge. As soon as the god's corpse stepped onto the iron chain bridge, the huge iron chain began to shake. The god's corpse stood on the iron chain bridge steadily and moved forward slowly. About 30 feet later, the horrifying power in heaven and earth pressed down. Blood Fairy's voice rang in Luli's mind. "Master, pull me back. The god's corpse cannot stand the power of heaven and earth. He cannot move." Hoy! Luli pulled the whip. The god's corpse trembled. He kicked on the ground and flew back. In the distance, the swords formed by the smoke came after him and landed on the god's corpse. Bang, 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 the god's corpse was smashed away, and so was Luli. Luli checked with psychic power and was relieved to find that there was no hole in the god's corpse. "The power of heaven and earth is horrifying." Blood Fairy's voice rang in Luli's mind. "If it were not for your help, the god's corpse would not be able to move. Master, this is not going to be easy." Even without Blood Fairy's reminder, Luli knew that this was not going to be easy. To cross the bridge, he must overcome two difficulties. The first was to stand against the power of heaven and earth, and the second was to stand against the sword formation coming down from the sky. How could he stand against the power of heaven and earth? Not even the god's corpse. The sword formation was even more horrifying. Even if the sword formation could not kill Luli, if he were smashed off the iron chain bridge and into the abyss, he would die a tragic death. There were two obstacles here. Given Luli's current abilities, there was no way he could overcome them. Luli took out the wicked bead and tried to go inside. To his disappointment, the interspatial artifact could not be used. He then tried to fly through the void. If he could fly through the void, no matter where he flew to, it would be better than being trapped here until he died. As Luli had expected, he could not fly across the void. Master of Ghost had foreseen everything. To go to the next level, he had to cross the iron chain bridge. What should I do? Lu Li paced up and down the cliff in agitation. He was having a headache. The more he walked, the more agitated he became. When a person knew that he was going to die in a place, and that he was at a dead end, it was normal for him to feel agitated and frustrated. 1 day, 2 days, 5 days. Lu Li sat on the ground, exhausted. He had been thinking for 5 days, but he could not come up with a solution. He was like a headless fly. He knew that the way out was on the other side, but there was a window in between that he could never cross. The only way is to improve my abilities. After thinking about it for 5 days, Lu Li realized that the only way forward was to become stronger. He had to make it so that he could not be suppressed by the force of heaven and earth, and the sword formation could not harm him. Only in this way could he cross the bridge. It was easy to say but very difficult to do. How strong would he have to be to stand against the force of heaven and earth, and the horrifying sword formation? How many years would he have to cultivate here? 10 years, 100 years, 10,000 years? Would he lose his mind if he was stuck here for 10,000 years, or even 100,000 years? Would Qi Shi'er and the others die? Would the Earth Imperial Universe be in danger? When he came out, would his family be turned into ashes? If he were to be stuck here for 1,000,000 years, the world would be a stranger to him when he came out. Everyone he knew would be dead. What was the point of living? Chapter 1467. Time slipped away. Time flew by. 3 years passed very quickly. To most of the martial artists in Yuyan-land, 3 years was too short. It was like a snap of a finger. During these 3 years, not many things happened in Yuyan-land. The only thing worth mentioning was that the immortal tree was about to bloom and bear fruit in the Jade Pool in the south. All the top powers sent out their most outstanding young masters and ladies to seek for the immortal fruit, causing Jade Pool to be very lively. To experts, the immortal fruit did not have much meaning as the lifespan of experts was too long, and it was almost impossible for them to die. For example, an ordinary god could live for tens of thousands of years without any pressure. It was also normal for a god on the list to live for hundreds of thousands of years. Once they reached the god realm, they would be able to live for 300,000 to 500,000 years. As for the God Realm Super Experts and God Realm Supremes, it was not a problem for them to live for millions of years. Of course, a lot of experts felt that there was no meaning in living and committed suicide or were killed. Experts did not like the immortal fruit, but it did not mean that the young masters and ladies did not like it. Which young master and lady did not wish to maintain their youthful appearance? Who did not wish to maintain their handsome appearance? Especially the top-notch young ladies of the top powers. They yearned for the immortal fruit to the extreme. They dared to use all of their treasures to exchange for an immortal fruit. There was still 1 to 2 years before the immortal tree would bloom and bear fruit, but the young masters and ladies of the top powers had already arrived. There were even people who came 3 to 5 years ago. A lot of the powers sent out their young masters and ladies with the intention of comparing them. If they could see eye to eye and marry each other, it would be a good thing for the top powers, especially the top-notch young masters and ladies of the 9 great god kings. They were the targets of the top powers. To be able to marry into the god king family, even if they could not obtain any benefits, at least they would not need to worry about their clan being exterminated. Recently, the southwest region was very peaceful. Only some small powers were fighting. This was very common in the entire Yuyan land, and almost no one paid attention to it. Even the war between high-grade powers was a small matter to a lot of people. Unless it was a war between super-grade powers, only then would it attract the attention of the entire Yuyan land. Massacre Shrine had been living comfortably for the past 3 years. No other powers dared to have any thoughts on Massacre Shrine. In these 3 years, Massacre Shrine had expanded by more than 6 to 7 times. The number of members had reached over 20,000, and 2 God Realm experts had appeared, Zhao Shi and Rong Jing. Previously, Zhao Shi was on the verge of breaking through. Later on, he comprehended 3 types of true meanings from the God's monument and successfully fused them together. That was how he managed to reach the level of an almighty in the immortal world. Rongzheng was an outsider. Before he came here, he was already a bigwig in the immortal world. He came here because of the fame of the immortal world. He was originally a wandering knight. At the start, Zhao Shi is not willing to accept Rongzheng. Later on, Rongzheng requests to become Zhao Shi's sole slave. Serving Massacre Shrine for 100 years has proven his loyalty. Zhao Shi and a few elders discuss before accepting him. In 3 years, the number of members had increased by 6 to 7 times, and Rongzheng had joined them. It was not because Zhao Shi and the others had good management, but because a flag had been planted on Mount Kunlun, a flag that symbolized absolute power and deterrence. Another thing was that a new crystal stone had been excavated from the dragon vein. It was a very rare crystal stone, the fragrant flower stone. This caused Massacre Shrine to instantly become a nouveau riche. If there are no divine roots, even if there are people who seek refuge in Massacre Shrine, Zhao Shi would not dare to take them in. These people all need divine roots to support them. It was absolutely safe. In addition, there was a divine source, and one could learn divine techniques at will. There was also a large supply of divine materials. Which martial artist wouldn't like such a good place? Mount Kunlun was originally very big. With over 20,000 people moving in, it became slightly crowded. Over a year ago, Zhao Shi and a few elders had a discussion and decided to take down a few territories in the vicinity to expand their influence. There were 4 low-grade factions in the vicinity, and according to the rules, they could not attack them. However, Zhao Shi and the rest knew how to be flexible. They sent people to send a message, and the leaders of 2 factions immediately came over to surrender. There were also 2 factions that were robbed by 2 groups of unknown martial artists in the middle of the night. Quite a number of people were killed, and the remaining martial artists took the initiative to surrender on the 3rd day. After obtaining 4 pieces of territory, the tens of thousands of martial artists can settle down. The nearby resources are also occupied, and Massacre Shrine becomes more prosperous with each passing day. A lot of martial artists are incomparably excited. The only regret is that they are unable to meet that legendary shrine head. Massacre Shrine still had a special characteristic, and that was their little princess, Qi Shi. This girl had grown up a lot, and she had a feeling of a girl changing 18 times from childhood to womanhood. The jade-carved doll back then had already turned into a young and inexperienced beautiful young lady. Her chest was slightly bulging, and her butt was also slightly perked up. She had already started to show the dainty beauty of a woman. Her face had become even more beautiful, like a fairy in the forest, giving her a kind of ethereal temperament. Especially during these few years, she practically did not bother with anyone and was always sitting on the southern cliff in a daze. This made her even more of a goddess that could only be seen from afar and not played with. It has been 3 years. Big brother, why are you not back yet? Could it be that you don't want Shi-Er anymore? Qi Shi-Er's eyebrows knitted as she looked into the distance. The gale caused her light green dress to flutter, messing up her hair, and also messing up her heart. Since Luli was not around, Qi Shi-Er felt that the sky was always dusky. She felt like she was floating in the sea without any sense of direction or security, like a rootless duckweed. This kind of feeling was very uncomfortable, and her days were very miserable. 5 years. Qi Shi-Er murmured with determination, "In 5 years, I will be able to reach a higher level. I might reach the level of a mighty warrior in the divinity. By then, if Big Brother is still not out, I will go to the Ghost King Hall to find you." If others could hear this, they would be amazed by Qi Shi-Er's talent. As a matter of fact, Zhao Shi and the others were amazed. Apart from sitting on the cliff in a daze for 3 years, Qi Shi-Er spent the rest of her time cultivating. She was very talented. In 3 years, her abilities had been improving. Others were improving step by step, but she was improving one level at a time. Whoosh, from afar, a black shadow flew over and leaped up like a monkey. He knelt on one knee in front of Qi Shi'er and said, "Lady Shi, the young master of the Overlord's mansion is here again. He is about to enter the Kunlun mountain." Qi Shi'er pouted and her pretty face turned cold. The Overlord's mansion was a super force, and the second grandpa of the young master was a supreme warrior in the divinity. It was said that he was on good terms with King Pan. Ever since a year ago, when the young master of the Overlord's mansion passed by and saw Qi Shi'er, he was immediately shocked and pestered Qi Shi'er for a long time like a fly. Qi Shi'er did not give him any face. The first 2 times, she came out to deal with him coldly. These 2 times, she went back to the castle to cultivate as soon as she heard that he was here. This young master of the Overlord's mansion was not an evil tyrant. He didn't dare to take Qi Shi'er by force. After all, there was a flag of King Pan on the Kunlun mountain. He wouldn't dare to do anything rash even if he had 100 guts. "Big brother, I am going to cultivate." Chapter 1468. Swish, before Qi Shi'er could return, a white figure floats up. Because there are a lot of people entering and exiting Kunlun Mountain, along with the coiling king flag, Zhao Shi did not activate the 10,000 Dragon Heaven locking formation. Thus, that white figure floats up and stands in front of Qi Shi'er. "Hello, Miss Shi'er." The white figure is a young man wearing a white robe. He has red lips and white teeth. He looks handsome, and there is a red jade belt around his waist. With a faint smile on his face, it gives him a kind of demonic aura. His posture is tall and straight, and his movements are confident and at ease. He gives off the feeling of an elegant young master. Swish, swish, swish. When a few massacre shrine martial artists see someone appearing beside Qi Shi'er, they immediately rush over and surround Qi Shi'er. But when they see the white-robed man, their expression turns more respectful as they bow and greet. "Greetings, young Master Yu." Young Master Yu did not even look at them as he smiles and his hand flashes with radiance. A pink spiritual fruit appears and he passes it to Qi Shi'er. "Miss Shi'er, this is Skybank fruit. Although it is slightly weaker than the immortal fruit, it is still a top-notch spiritual fruit. After you eat it, you will not age for 10,000 years. Skybank fruit. A guard who had heard of this fruit before revealed an astonished expression. It is said that one fruit costs a few 100 million divine root. This young Master Yu of Overlord Manor is indeed rich and overbearing. A casual fruit that he takes out is worth a few 100 million divine root. Qi Shi'er did not even look at the fruit in young Master Yu's hand. Her body is starting to mature and has a vague understanding of the matters between men and women. This young Master Yu's gaze towards her is different from others. She instinctively feels disgusted. Thus, she says coldly, "Many thanks for young Master Yu's kind intentions. I still need to go into seclusion to cultivate. Young Master Yu, goodbye." Cultivate? Young Master Yu is not angry at Qi Shi'er's cold attitude. A spatial ring appears in his hand and he says, "Miss Shi'er, there are 10,000 cauldron tie pills, 10,000 soul sparkle pills, and a high-grade god steel. You can use them all. I am going to the Jade Lake. Miss Shi'er, follow me. I reckon that when you return, you will have already broken through to God Realm." Cauldron Titan pill, soul flickering pill, high-grade god steel. The guards were so shocked that they were speechless. These were the best elixirs and cultivation treasures. This young Master Yu was too generous. Even a young miss from a large family would not be able to resist such a temptation, right? Cultivating with the Cauldron Titan pill and soul flickering pill, as well as comprehending the true meaning within the high-grade god steel, would allow one's strength to soar. Qi Shi-er's expression didn't change in the slightest, not even glancing at the space ring as she said indifferently, "I'm sorry, young master Yu, I'm not going anywhere and I don't need anything from you. Farewell." After speaking, Qi Shi turned and left without a trace of reluctance. Her footsteps were resolute, and she quickly disappeared into a castle. She activated the restrictions. Unexpectedly, young Master Jade was not angry. Instead, he laughed. He watched as Qi Shi-er's figure disappeared into the castle. After putting away the items, he ignored Zhao Shi and the others who were rushing over and rose into the air. A flying bird flew over quickly. Young Master Jade leaped onto it and entered the flying bird. The flying bird didn't stop. It soared into the sky and quickly disappeared into the east horizon. There were 3 martial artists sitting in the flying bird. All of them were powerful figures from the divinity world. In the front hall of the flying bird, there was a super powerful figure from the divinity world. The safety of the young master of the Overlord Mansion could not be allowed. Every time he went out, there would be a super powerful figure from the divinity world with him. Young Master. An elder with a cold smile in the hall saw young Master Jade and said embarrassedly, "She is just a little girl. Why did young Master spend so much time and energy on her?" "You don't understand." Young Master Jade picked up a white jade cup and took a sip. Then, he said, "This little girl's temperament is quite similar to someone. I can't have her in this life. I can only find a substitute." "Someone?" The cold elder's eyes flickered. He sighed slightly and said, "Young Master, why are you so stubborn? She is the next successor appointed by King Pan. She can't be married." "I know." Young Master Jade revealed a trace of desolation and said, "It is because I know this point that I have been living in pain all these years. I also know that I am not worthy of her. Qi Shi's temperament is very similar to her and is even purer. After raising her for a few years, her appearance and temperament will not lose out to her. I must obtain this lass. The problem is..." The cold elder became anxious and said, "That lass doesn't know what's good for her. It can't be that we can forcefully abduct her, right? There is a King Pan flag on Kunlun Mountain. If we act recklessly, it will be a huge matter. Young Master, that flag is given to her by that person." "I know. I know everything." Young Master Jade's smile turned cold as he said sinisterly, "It is just a little girl. Will she really fall out with our Overlord Mansion? Furthermore, as long as we do not leave behind any evidence, what can she do to us?" A white-haired elder by the side spoke for the first time. He asked in bewilderment, "Why did that young lady give Massacre Shrine a King Pan flag?" This matter was messing around in itself. King Pan flag represents the property of King Pan Mansion. Massacre Shrine is not a subsidiary power of King Pan Mansion. The cold elder explained, "It is said that Massacre Shrine's Hall Master Lu Lin has a good relationship with that person. That person even bestowed a King Pan token to Lu Lin back then. Lu Lin had a conflict with Heaven Cold Palace's Yonglier outside of King Pan City. Pan Ning came out to support Yonglier, and in the end, Lu Lin took out the King Pan token. Currently, Pan Ning is still locked up in prison." The white-haired elder was startled and became even more bewildered as he said, "Don't tell me that arrogant young lady has taken a liking to Lu Lin? I have never seen her treat outsiders so well in these few years. That's not right. Isn't this young lady unable to marry? Why would she treat a guy so well?" Bang. Let's not talk about how this young Master Jade was not angry. The moment he said that, he was incomparably enraged. He smashed the cup in his hand, and it instantly broke into pieces. His eyes turned cold as a berserk aura poured out from his body. He snorted, "I have come to Kunlun Mountain a few times and have never seen this Lu Lin. If I see this person, I want to have a spar with him. Let's see what ability he has to make Pan Yuqin look at him in a different light. A leader of a middle-grade force is seeking death." Young Master Jade, please calm down. The cold elder hurriedly consoled. If young Lady Qin wishes to become the next King Pan, she must not marry unless she gives up on taking over the position of King Pan. Forget it. Young Master Jade, don't be angry. This time when we go to the Jade Pool, we will be able to see young Lady Qin. Perhaps she might change her mind and look at young Master in a different light? Young Master is about to break through to become a supreme expert of the divine realm. How many people in the entire land of Yuyan have this kind of heaven-defying talent? Not possible. Chapter 1469. Luli was still in that strange small world in the Ghost King Hall. He was still at the deep Abyss Canyon. He had been cultivating for 3 years and still could not figure out a way to get across the canyon. The 3 years were tough for Luli. For the first few months, he could not focus on cultivation and he would have to stop after a while. All he could think about was how to get across the canyon. How could he cultivate when his mind was in a mess? After more than half a year, he finally accepted his fate. He stopped thinking about other things and focused on cultivation, trying to improve his abilities. Apart from improving his abilities to fight against energy in heaven and earth and sword formations, he knew he had no other way to get across the deep Abyss Canyon. Luli had been cultivating by the cliff for more than half a year, but he did not make much progress. The Xian Qi in heaven and earth was thin here. The speed of cultivating divine energy was slow. Learning fundamental principle? It was not that easy to learn fundamental principle. Apart from the improvement of his soul, Luli gained nothing. A year later, Luli had an idea. He went back into the canyon. It was not that he wanted to go back, but he had an idea. There was a powerful soul ripple in the valley. The dragon soul could consume the energy of the soul ripple. Luli wanted to see if the dragon soul could evolve after consuming the energy of the soul ripple for a while. It was an unintentional action of his, but it had brought him endless benefits for the next 1 year or so. He sat with his legs crossed in the depth of the canyon where the desolation waves were the most horrifying. Every second, the desolation waves would invade Luli's mind and then be consumed by the dragon soul. The dragon soul did not evolve. After a while, it began to transmit a strange white energy into Luli's body. The strange white energy divided into 2 parts when it entered Luli's body. One of them entered his pellet and was converted into divine energy. The other went into the 720 acupoints in Luli's body and began to improve his physical strength. After the dragon's soul poured energy into him, Luli's body trembled violently. He was overjoyed. He just wanted to see if the dragon's soul could evolve. Little did he know that by chance, he had opened a door to the heavens. He sat in the depth of the canyon where the desolation waves were the most horrifying. There would be desolation waves coming at him almost every second. The dragon soul kept on devouring the energy and turning it into white energy to enhance Luli's divine energy and physical strength. This wasn't the first time the dragon soul had such an ability. It had appeared twice in the past. The first time was when Luli consumed soul crystals, and the second time was in the beast god realm. The dragon soul absorbed all the liquid of dragons in the pond of dragons and poured in a large amount of white energy to strengthen Luli's body. Later on, Luli had been trying to find something like the liquid of dragons, but he never found anything. Therefore, he had almost forgotten about it. Now that the dragon soul had once again revealed its incredible abilities, Luli had learned a lot. Every hour, the dragon soul would send a surge of energy to Luli to strengthen his divine energy and his physical body. 1 year and 10 months. Luli had been cultivating in the valley for 1 year and 10 months, but he felt it was more vigorous than cultivating outside for 100 years. Most importantly, not only was his divine power improving, but his physical body was also improving at a rapid pace. Furthermore, he didn't need to cultivate at all. The dragon's soul was actively helping him cultivate. In the beginning, Luli was bored here. Now, he felt comfortable here. He could cultivate here for 10 years or even 100 years without feeling bored. Here, his divine energy and physical body were improving so fast. If he could cultivate here for 100 years, 1,000 years or even 10,000 years, he didn't know how strong his divine energy would be and how strong his physical body would be. For other warriors, the valley might be a dangerous place, but for Luli, it was a land of treasures for cultivation. The physical body was the root, the soul was the origin, and divine energy was the source. When one's physical body and divine energy were strengthened, one's offensive ability might not be improved by much. However, one's speed, defense, and reflexes would all soar. Without abundant divine energy, even if Luli learned some powerful moves, he would not be able to use them to their fullest potential. Emperor Z said that the dragon soul is a 7th rank enchanted soul? What is a 7th rank enchanted soul? What kind of treasure is this dragon soul? This was not the first time Luli had thought about this. The dragon's soul was more powerful than any treasure he had ever seen. He even felt it was more powerful than the legendary Holy Grade relic. After 3 years of cultivation, Luli's divine energy and physical body had improved a lot. Even so, he didn't think he could cross the Iron Chain Bridge. If he wanted to cross the Iron Chain Bridge solely by relying on divine energy and physical body, he would have to cultivate here for hundreds of years. During the 3 years, he did not just sit here in a daze. He had been studying killing moves and fundamental meanings. It was difficult to learn fundamental meanings. He didn't learn any new fundamental meanings. That being said, the space strangulation had been perfected and its power had increased by more than 50%. Not enough, far from enough. Even if the space strangulation could be 10 times more powerful, Luli still could not stand the force in heaven and earth on the Iron Chain Bridge. He could not stand those horrifying sword formations with his defense. That was to say, his 3 years of cultivation was of no use. It was of no help for him to cross the Iron Chain Bridge. I must learn a strong defense fundamental meaning. An idea came to Luli's mind. As long as he could learn a strong defense fundamental meaning, he could stand the force in heaven and earth, the sword formations and cross the Iron Chain Bridge. The thing was, fundamental meaning was not something that could be learned at one's will. One must touch heaven and earth at a certain moment. One must be in harmony with heaven and earth from the depth of one's soul. Therefore, fundamental meaning was particularly difficult to learn, not to mention a specific fundamental meaning. Touch! An idea came to Luli's mind. There were several places in the valley that could touch his soul. There were Taoist meanings left by powerful warriors. If he was lucky, he could learn some powerful fundamental meanings from there. However, those places were horrifying. If it were not for the immortal's body, Luli didn't know if he could make it here. The feeling of his soul being dragged out by ghosts gave Luli chills just thinking about it. What was more, Luli was sure that those palm prints, fist shadows, and sword marks were all illusions and traps. What if the Taoist meanings contained in them were fake and his soul was sucked in, destroyed? Fortune comes from danger. After a while, Luli made up his mind. The most important thing was that he had the immortal's body. If things went south, he could let the immortal's body take him away. With this guarantee, he wouldn't suffer a crushing defeat. He still had a chance to survive. What if those palm prints, fist shadows, and sword marks did contain Taoist meanings? Those palm prints, fist shadows, and sword marks were likely left by ghost kings. If they did contain Taoist meanings, Luli would be rich. Chapter 1470. Hundreds of feet away from Luli was a sword mark. It was more than 10 feet long and 3 inches deep. It was not a straight line. There were 2 turns on the way. Lu Li came to the sword mark after he told the immortal's body what to do. When he saw the sword mark, he could not help but feel confused. A surge of murderous intent spread out from him. He was filled with murderous intent. The world in his eyes changed. The valley was gone, the immortal's body was gone, and the world became dark and lonely. Lu Li's soul seemed to have been sucked into this world. He could not go out or leave. Swish, from the horizon came a ray of white light. Following that, a ray of sword light appeared out of nowhere and whooshed toward Lu Li. That ray of sword light was long and powerful. It tore apart the void and was coming toward Lu Li. A surge of energy in heaven and earth came with the ray of sword light. Lu Li felt his soul was about to be crushed. Swish, the ray of sword light suddenly took a turn in the air, twice. Theoretically speaking, when a sword was swung, it should be done in a straight line. In this way, the speed would be faster and the power would be stronger. This would create inertia and the strength could be sustained. When a sword was swung, it had to take 2 turns in the air? No matter how great the power was, it would be consumed, and no matter how powerful the attack was, it would be weakened. But this move was different. The sword made 2 turns, but the speed was getting faster and the energy was getting stronger. After the second turn, Lu Li trembled. From the depth of his soul came a sense of fatal and instinctive fear. A thought came to his mind. If he did not do something, he would be torn apart the next second. Blood Fairy. Out of instinct, Lu Li let out a scream of terror. Blood Fairy got the signal. She grabbed Lu Li with one hand and stepped back. Over 30 feet away, Lu Li noticed that the strange world was gone. He was back in the valley. Phew, phew, Lu Li breathed heavily. Sweat poured down from his forehead and back. He sat on the ground, exhausted. He did not even have the strength to stand up. Although the sword didn't hit him in the end, he felt as if he had taken a trip to the gates of hell. That feeling was too real, to the point that even after resting for the time it took for an incense stick to burn, he still hadn't recovered. Continue. After resting for an hour, Lu Li got up and walked towards the sword mark again. In any case, there would be a Nirvana soul wave attack at any time. The dragon's soul was helping him cultivate at all times. Even if he didn't do anything, his divine power and physical body were strengthening. It didn't matter if he wasted some time. If he could comprehend the Tao runes inside, he would have made a huge profit. When Lu Li was close to the sword mark, it lit up again. The scene in front of Lu Li changed, and he was surrounded by darkness. Next, a beam of light appeared on the horizon as a sword beam brought with it a terrifying might of the heavens and earth whistled over. Blood Fairy! Soon, Lu Li let out a scream. The immortal's body grabbed Lu Li and stepped back. Once again, Lu Li was soaked in sweat. He collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. This time, after resting for an hour, he did not rush to continue to the sword mark. Instead, he sat cross-legged and began to meditate. After experiencing it twice, Lu Li was convinced that there was a Tao rune in the sword mark. This move was a powerful move that contained a strong Tao rune. If he could comprehend this Tao rune, it would be of great help to Lu Li. But there was one problem. Lu Li had seen it twice, but he was not moved. That was to say, he knew there was a Tao rune but he could not grasp it or integrate it into his body. In this case, it would be difficult for him to comprehend it. Did I break away too early? Do I have to wait for that sword to come down completely before I can comprehend it? Lu Li made a bold assumption but soon, he denied it. That sword move was too real. If he dared to stand there and let the sword move down, he believed that his soul would be torn apart. Eventually, his soul would vanish and he would die on the spot. What if this was a trick of Master of Ghost? What if this was a trap? Lu Li's soul was torn apart because he coveted the Tao rune. If that happened, he would have died in vain. However, if the sword did not come down completely, Lu Li would not be able to comprehend it. He would not be able to touch the Tao rune in the depth of his heart. Never mind. I will keep trying. If I can't do it once, I will try 100 times. If not, I will try 10,000 times. I have all the time I have." After a while, Luli stood up. He was still afraid to take the risk and let the sword light come down. If his soul was shattered, then he would not have another chance. Therefore, he would rather spend more time here. After all, it was fun to stay here. His divine energy and body could be strengthened. If he could stay here for a few years, his divine energy could reach the level of a mighty warrior in the divinity, and his body would be dozens of times stronger. Just like that, Luli studied the sword light again and again, trying to learn something from it. Every time, before the sword could come down, he would scream and ask the immortal's body to take him back. 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 3 months had passed and Luli had gained nothing. He changed his train of thought and went to a nearby claw mark. Although the Nirvana soul wave here was weaker, it did not affect him too much. Here, Luli could only last for the time for a few breaths before he had to be taken back by the immortal's body. This place was equally dangerous. If Luli did not step back, he would feel his soul was going to be ripped out from his head. He went in and out again and again. Time flew by. Soon, a year had passed. Luli had been in the world inside the Hall of Ghosts for 4 years. Apart from his divine energy, body and soul being strengthened, he made no progress in terms of fundamental principle. Do I really have to take the risk? Luli had been sitting near the sword mark for an entire day. He had lost count of how many times he had entered that strange world over the past year. Every time, he would feel something but he could not grasp the essence of the profound principle. Therefore, he had come back empty-handed in the past year. If he had to rely on his divine energy and body, it would take him hundreds of years to stand against the suppression of the force in heaven and earth on the iron chain bridge and the sword formation made of smoke and clouds. Therefore, to get out quickly, the only way was to learn fundamental principle. That was to take the risk. Of course, Luli had the ability to protect himself. He had the dragon's soul. With the protection of the dragon's soul, nothing had happened to his soul over the years. Even if something were to happen this time, he believed that the dragon's soul would protect him. Blood Fairy, after I scream, wait for the time for 2 breaths and then take me back. Chapter 1471. Blood Fairy did not have complicated emotions like humans, but that did not mean that she did not have feelings. She had been with Luli for a long time. Luli was a qualified master. Blood Fairy could have left, but she chose to stay with Luli. After a moment of silence, Blood Fairy said, "Master, if you die, I will find a good place to bury you. I will figure out a way to break the Hall of Ghosts." Blood Fairy was not good at expressing emotions, but she did convey some vague meanings. When Luli was dead, she would bury him and find a way to break the Hall of Ghosts to take control of this place. Indirectly, she was avenging Luli. Ha ha ha! Luli laughed. He was filled with lofty sentiments. Over the years, he had been through storms and storms. He had walked the line between life and death many times. He had fought against the King of Hell many times. He was never afraid of death. He did not think about anything else. At the moment, his mind was empty. The only thing he could think about was the world inside the sword mark. He walked over and stood in front of the sword mark. He stared at the sword mark. The world in front of him changed at once. The valley was gone, the immortal's body was gone, and everything was gone. The only thing left was darkness and loneliness. After waiting for a moment, the sky in the distance lit up. Next, a startling sword light appeared out of nowhere. It was as though a supreme being was standing there, gently slashing out with his sword. Swish, a sharp whistling sound rang out as the 300-meter-long sword light tore through the void, bringing with it boundless pressure and shocking power as it whistled over. The ray of sword light made 2 turns in the air. That astonishing power and pressure did not disappear. Instead, with each turn, it grew stronger. After the second turn, the power was at its peak. Lu Li's soul was trembling. At that moment, he sensed fatal danger. He told himself that he must do something or he would die the next second. "Blood Fairy," he roared, but Blood Fairy did not move. Blood Fairy carried out his order. Lu Li said that he could only take him away after the time for 2 breaths. Boom! That ray of sword light finally landed. Lu Li's consciousness blurred. His lips curled into a bitter smile. He felt that his soul had been severely injured, as if it had been split in half. However, he did not regret it at this moment. There were many choices in life. If he didn't have the courage to face the difficulties head-on and the determination to die, he wouldn't have made it this far. Since he had already made the decision, there was nothing to regret. He was just willing to accept the loss. "Master," after the time for 2 breaths, Blood Fairy sensed that Lu Li's presence of life was fading. She shouted in surprise and controlled the immortal's body to take Lu Li away. What a pity! This time, Lu Li did not open his eyes. His breath of life was weakening and he was motionless. His face turned pale, as if he was slowly dying. Bringing Lu Li back for 100 feet, Blood Fairy controlled the immortal's body to lay Lu Li on the ground. Then, she reached into Lu Li's body and reached into his brain. Lu Li's situation was not good. His blade-shaped soul was split in the middle and the crack was very clear. The fleshly body was the root, the soul was the origin, and the divine power was the source. The origin was broken. It seemed that Lu Li would not survive. Blood Fairy did not despair because there was a silver dragon mark on the surface of Lu Li's soul. At the moment, the silver dragon mark was glowing and was repairing Lu Li's soul. Blood Fairy sensed that while Lu Li's vitality was fading, the spiritual connection between them had not been completely severed. This meant that Lu Li was not completely dead. If the spiritual connection was severed, Lu Li would not be able to be saved. Blood Fairy did not have human emotions. That being said, she was still nervous. The tentacle in Lu Li's brain was trembling. Time moved on. In the past, Blood Fairy did not feel the passage of time. But now, she felt each day was like a year. The dragon soul had been repairing Lu Li's soul, but it was not very effective. 3 days later, Lu Li's vitality was as fragile as a gossamer. His spiritual connection with Blood Fairy was faintly discernible. Blood Fairy was worried that the spiritual connection between Lu Li and her would suddenly be cut off. By then, even though she could regain her freedom, she would lose a good master who could protect and help her. Another 3 days passed. Blood Fairy finally felt relieved. The spiritual connection between Lu Li and her was still there. The dragon soul had repaired Lu Li's cracked soul. Lu Li was not completely dead. He was still hanging on to his last breath. Since he was not going to die, Blood Fairy believed that given Lu Li's strong willpower and his survival instinct, he would be able to heal himself. Days passed by and soon, 3 months had passed. Lu Li's condition didn't improve, nor did it worsen. He had been sleeping like this, like a vegetable. Another 3 months passed. All of a sudden, Blood Fairy's tentacle trembled. The vitality in Lu Li's body was growing, and so was the spiritual connection between him and Blood Fairy. Although the rate of increase was very slow, it was indeed increasing bit by bit. "Master, I know you can get out of this safely. You have to help me find treasures and evolve into a human being. You cannot die so easily," Blood Fairy said excitedly. She kept sending messages as if she was trying to arouse Lu Li's desire to live. Time moved on. The vitality in Lu Li's body was growing, and so was his soul. This time, when he was cut open and healed, it was as if Lu Li had been reborn. His soul had been enhanced. Blood Fairy did not understand. She only felt that Lu Li's soul was dozens of times stronger than before. Another 3 months passed by. Finally, Lu Li opened his eyes slowly. He put on a bright smile. In front of him stood a headless body. To others, the headless body would be horrifying. But to Lu Li, it was amiable. As a matter of fact, Luli had been conscious for a long time. It was just that he was too weak to wake up. He could hear Blood Fairy's messages, but he did not send them back. Another narrow escape put Luli in a good mood. More importantly, it was worth it. He almost lost his life, but he had gained a lot. Blood Fairy was right. Luli noticed that his soul had been transformed. He could not explain it clearly, but he had become stronger. Maybe he had been reborn. Or maybe it was the help of the dragon soul that had strengthened his soul. He had a feeling that when his soul was split open, the dragon soul seemed to have poured in a lot of special energy. That was why his soul was healed. His soul was not a big deal. During this period of sleep, his divine energy and physical body had been strengthened. It was not a big deal. What was more, he had learned a Taoist rhythm, the Taoist rhythm contained in that move. Chapter 1472. God had always been fair. No pain, no gain. Luli had died once and the reward from God was great. Of course, if Luli had not died this time, he would never have the chance to learn the fundamental principle or the move in the sword mark. Only when the sword cut down could Luli's soul be touched. Only then could he have a clear sense of the Tao in the sword light and grasp it. Luli would not give up so easily since he had captured the immortal's body. He told the immortal's body. Then Luli checked his body. Both his divine energy and physical body were stronger. He took some energy pellets and entered the transcendent state to cultivate. He wanted to strike while the iron was hot and try to comprehend this powerful Tao rune. Then, he could comprehend a powerful true meaning or killer move. Whether it could help him cross the iron chain bridge or not, he must learn it. The fundamental principle was so strong that it could enhance his abilities. It had been almost 5 years since Luli was here. But he no longer had a sense of time. If he did not improve his abilities, he would never be able to leave. As long as he could not leave, he could stay here for 5 or 500 years. This time, he cultivated for an entire year. The moment he opened his eyes, the entire valley seemed to be lit up. His eyes were sharp. Regular immortals would not have the courage to look into his eyes. There seemed to be a ray of sword light in his eyes that could make people's hearts tremble. What kind of fundamental principle is this? Luli did not stand up after he opened his eyes. Instead, he murmured in surprise. After a year, he had mastered the fundamental principle. Even so, he felt he had opened a door to a whole new world. The world was vast and boundless. To fully understand that world would take a long time. This fundamental principle was not a single one. Luli found many embryonic forms of fundamental principle. One was the spatial fundamental principle, the second was the speed fundamental principle. Luli was not sure about the third one, but he felt it had something to do with the force in heaven and earth. When the ray of sword light came down, a horrifying amount of force and momentum was drawn from heaven and earth. Was there another fundamental principle of soul? That attack seemed to be intangible, but it had split Luli's soul. Luli was not injured at all. Did it mean that there was a soul attack in the sword light? This kind of formidable true intent should be the fusion of 4 or more true intents, ultimately fusing into a kind of killer move, a killer move that no one could contend against. If he could master this move, Luli believed that his combat ability would be greatly improved. Even if he didn't reach the level of a supreme being in the God world, it was still possible for him to kill a super almighty in the God world. Of course, Luli knew that he could not learn it in a short period of time. The fundamental principle was too complicated. It would take a lot of time to deduce, verify and study. It was hard to say how long it would take. It might take a few years, or it might take hundreds or thousands of years. Therefore, Luli stopped cultivating. He had reached the beginner level of the fundamental principle. Theoretically speaking, it was only a matter of time before he could master it. If he could not, then it would be fate. He stopped comprehending because he wanted to think about how he could use this true meaning to cross the Iron Chain Bridge. He is very worried about Qi Shi'er and Massacre Shrine and wishes to go out as soon as possible to take a look. As for cultivation, he could always come back later. After all, he could pass the first and second level easily. Reaching the third level was not too stressful for him. He had an idea. He wanted to separate the fundamental principle in this powerful move and study it separately. In this way, he might be able to cross the Iron Chain Bridge. When that ray of sword light came at him, it affected the horrifying force in heaven and earth to suppress him. When he crossed the Iron Chain Bridge, he would be suppressed by the force in heaven and earth as well. If he could understand the force in heaven and earth, he might be able to stand the suppression of the force in heaven and earth on the Iron Chain Bridge. When the Slayer's move is released, it will affect the force in heaven and earth to suppress the enemy as well. Lu Li had some ideas. Actually, there were many kinds of force in heaven and earth, for example, the force of fire, the force of wind, the force of earth, and so on. But that was in a broad sense. The force that could suppress people should be the force of space. If the force of space could suppress people, the person would not be able to move. No matter how strong a person was, could he fight against the endless space and the firmament above his head? How could he move when the entire space was suppressing him? Of course, the force in heaven and earth depended on the move as well. For example, the Slayer's move that Lu Li had learned could not mobilize much force in heaven and earth. Therefore, when facing a powerful warrior, others could get rid of it easily. Lu Li noticed something else. He had learned the Slayer's move, but it did not mean that he had learned how to use the force of space. This was just a special feature of the Slayer's move. When released, the move could affect part of the force in space to suppress the enemy. Affecting and borrowing were two completely different concepts. The first kind was when one did not understand the force of space and was influenced by chance. The second kind was when one understood the principle and could borrow the force at will. The first kind could only affect the force of space. If Lu Li could understand the essence of the force of space, he would be able to borrow more. Another thing was that now that he had learned how to use the force in heaven and earth to suppress the enemy, it would be more difficult for others to use the force in heaven and earth to suppress him. It would be easy for him to stand the force in heaven and earth. This is it. Lu Li was excited when he figured out the principle. He had to take things one step at a time. First, he had to solve the force in heaven and earth, and then find a way to resist or crack the sword formation. In this way, he could cross the Iron Chain Bridge. The sword scar true intent contained many types of true intents, including the true intent related to the power of space. Lu Li decided to separate it and study the fundamental principle of space first. After all, he had to study the several fundamental principles one by one so that he could integrate them. Lu Li stood up and walked around. He stretched his body and took some energy pellet. He sensed his god power and physical body, and a hint of joy appeared on his face. Based on his calculation, his divine energy should be as abundant as a mighty warrior in the divinity. The energy he released were on par with the mighty warriors in the divinity as well. Coupled with the fundamental principle and comprehensive abilities he had learned, he was a true mighty warrior in the divinity. It had been hundreds of thousands of years since Emperor of Heaven Reverse ascended to the divinity, and Yen Tiangang had ascended to the divinity for nearly 1,000,000 years. It had been less than a decade since Lu Li ascended to the divinity, and yet, he had become a mighty warrior in the divinity. Lu Li could not help but exclaim. He did not feel proud or complacent because he knew very well how difficult it was to become stronger in the divinity. After he came to the divinity, he had experienced so many things, gained so many opportunities, and made so many enemies. How many people could go against the 4 legendary forces and escape to the land of Yuyan alive? He had someone to help him, for example, that mysterious powerful warrior whose identity was still unknown. If it were not for that mysterious warrior who gave him the skill to fly across the void, Luli would have been dead by now or would have been focused on forging artifacts in the craftsman's sect. Therefore, Luli was calm. What was more, becoming a super mighty warrior in the divinity was not enough for him. Chapter 1473. Luli's study of the Force in heaven and earth was smooth. Previously, when he learned the Slayer's move, he could mobilize the Force in heaven and earth. The sword mark, fundamental principle had a clearer understanding of the use of Force in heaven and earth. What was more, Luli had learned space cracking and space twisting. He had some understanding of the fundamental principle of space. The force in heaven and earth that Luli mentioned was the force of space, which was different from the force of fire and wind. The force of space was so strong that it could be found everywhere in the world. If one could borrow some, it would be a piece of cake to suppress the enemy. Luli also remembered a kind of force that Mingyu was trying to understand. It seemed to be a low-level application of spatial force. Later, Mingyu evolved force into Space Seal, which was a simple application of the force of space. Space was everywhere. When one could learn the essence of it, one could borrow its strength. As a matter of fact, Luli's space twisting was also using a special force of space to kill enemies. It was a different approach but with the same result. Space force gather. After a year of cultivation, Luli moved his hands. He mobilized divine energy. His hands glowed and waved in a certain pattern. Buzzing, as soon as Luli moved, the space around him began to tremble. An invisible force spread out, covering an area with a radius of 1,000 feet. Blood Fairy, see if you can move. Luli's words woke Blood Fairy up. She controlled the immortal's body to move. However, at the moment, the immortal's body was restrained by a strange force. His movements were slowed down, as if he was 100 times slower. It took him a long time to take a step. What? Blood Fairy's surprised voice came to Luli's mind. Master, what is this move? How come I feel that the immortal's body is being suppressed by a strong force? Force in heaven and earth. Luli explained. Then, he said with dissatisfaction, the force in heaven and earth I can borrow is too little. Or I have not learned it well enough. Otherwise, given the immortal's body's strength, he will not be able to move. Even so, Blood Fairy was shocked. The immortal's body was strong. The immortal's body could be as strong as a mighty warrior in the divinity. Luli could suppress the immortal's body, but it did not mean that he could suppress a mighty warrior in the divinity. Wouldn't it be a piece of cake for him to kill a mighty warrior in the divinity? That being said, Luli's space twister did seem to be a piece of cake for him to kill mighty warriors in the divinity. Blood Fairy could only sigh. Her master's progress was too heaven-defying. While others climbed step by step, he was leaping step by step. Luli tried several more times and then went back to closed-door cultivation. He felt his understanding of the fundamental principle of spatial force was incomplete. At the very least, the power of space was invisible. When he released it just now, the space fluctuated greatly. 3 months later, Luli opened his eyes again. This time, the divine energy in his body did not surge, and he did not let out too much energy. He waved his hand gently, as if he was chasing away mosquitoes. The moment Luli opened his eyes, Blood Fairy was alarmed. She sensed an invisible force enveloping her. Before Luli said anything, Blood Fairy controlled the immortal's body to fly into the distance. This time, however, the immortal's corpse couldn't move. No matter how hard it tried, the immortal's corpse wouldn't move. The invisible force was so strong that the immortal's corpse couldn't move at all. It was like he was standing on an iron chain bridge. Congratulations, Master. You are awesome. Blood Fairy flattered Luli in time. Luli grinned and stood up. Let's go to the iron chain bridge. I think I can stand the force of nature there. Okay. When the invisible force disappeared, Blood Fairy controlled the immortal's body to follow Luli to the iron chain bridge. Standing on the iron chain bridge with the immortal's corpse, Luli's state of mind was completely different. Over the years, Luli's divine energy and body had been improved and his soul had transformed. His abilities had reached a new level. His temperament had improved as well. His aura had grown stronger, and in his eyes, he was more confident. Buzzing, Luli took out the silver whip and coiled it around the immortal's body's waist. Blood Fairy walked toward the iron chain bridge without any hesitation. After she took 10 steps, an invisible force suddenly enveloped her. Then, the clouds moved and formed many semi-transparent swords that shot toward the immortal's body. "Go!" Luli shouted and waved his hand. The space in front of him began to tremble. The force of nature that enveloped Luli and the immortal's body disappeared. Since Luli could borrow the force of nature, it would be a piece of cake for him to crack it. At the very least, Luli could mobilize the force of nature that was suppressing him. How could Luli suppress the immortal's body when he could control the force of nature? Okay. Blood Fairy was overjoyed to sense that the immortal's body could move. The immortal's body moved quickly. He kicked the iron chain with one leg. Like a swallow in a storm, the immortal's body dodged the attacks from over a dozen swords of cloud. Unfortunately, the iron chain was full of clouds. There was no way for the immortal's body to escape. The immortal's body could not dodge. He punched at the cloud swords, trying to shatter the cloud swords. Bang! Blood Fairy had underestimated the strength of the sword formation. The immortal's body's fist landed on the sword. Though the sword crumbled, the immortal's body was smashed down by the strong force. The immortal's body tried to stabilize himself and go back to the iron chain bridge. However, the swords coming from all sides smashed him away. The immortal's body fell into the abyss. Hoi Luli exerted force. The whip contracted. With the help of this force, the immortal's body flew back to Luli. Master, no, the sword formation is too strong. The immortal's body cannot stand it, unless I have taken control of the core formation. Blood Fairy sighed helplessly. There was a bead inside the immortal's body, and there was a powerful magic array inside it. Given Blood Fairy's current abilities, it would take her hundreds of years to take control of the bead completely. No hurry, Luli was not discouraged. He had to take things one step at a time. Now that he could stand the force of nature, he had made great progress. If the inhibition formations of Master Ghost could be cracked so easily, then so many people wouldn't have died in there. Let's try a few more times. I need to take a closer look. After all, the sword formation cannot destroy the immortal's body. Luli waved his hand. Blood Fairy controlled the immortal's body to keep going. However, the outcome was the same. The immortal's body could only hold on for a few breaths before he was smashed off the iron chain bridge. He was on this side of the iron chain bridge. The clouds on the other side were thicker and of a different color. The danger level would be doubled. 2 ways. Chapter 1474. That was the theory, but it was not an easy task. Not even the immortal's body could stand the sword formation. It would be difficult for Luli. Could Space Twist or the Slayer's move do the trick? It would be even more difficult to disperse the clouds and smoke. If the inhibition formations of a Ghost Lord could be broken so easily, then he would not be a Ghost Lord. Wait, I don't need to. Luli suddenly thought of something. He knew how to use the force in heaven and earth to suppress enemies. Could he use the same to suppress the sword formation? If the swords could not reach down, then he and the immortal's body could go through easily. Blood Fairy, do it again. Luli waved his hand in excitement. Blood Fairy did not ask any questions. She flew the immortal's body over. After Luli was free from the force in heaven and earth, he waved his hands and used the force in heaven and earth to suppress the space above the immortal's body so that the sword formation could not reach down. It works! When Luli used the force in heaven and earth to suppress the clouds and smoke, the swords formed by the clouds slowed down. By the time the swords were about to reach down, the immortal's body had dashed over. Whoosh, whoosh. Unfortunately, there was a limit to the space that Luli could control. The clouds and smoke here were suppressed. In the distance, the clouds and smoke formed swords and smashed the immortal's body away again. Master, this is a good idea. When the immortal's body was pulled up, Blood Fairy said at once, "If we can suppress the space around the immortal's body so that the swords cannot reach down, then it will be easy to go through." Luli forced a smile. Suppressing the space around the immortal's body was easy. However, that would also affect the immortal's body. The immortal's body could not move. So what if the swords could not reach down? They still could not go through. Don't worry. Let me think about it. Luli waved his hand and took the immortal's body back to the valley. In the valley, he could improve his divine energy and body at any time. Since it was time to think, why not go to the valley? Inside the valley, Luli found a random place to sit down and began to think. The iron chain bridge that seemed to be impassable now had some hope, a great one. The suppression of the force in heaven and earth had been broken. Now, it seemed that the sword formation could be broken by using the force in heaven and earth. Luli's spirits were lifted. He calmed down and began to think carefully about how he could use his own abilities to break through all the obstacles. It suppressed the space around the god's corpse, making it difficult for all the longswords to reach it. On the other hand, the immortal's body could not be moved. If it were Luli, he could move at will. But what if something went wrong? It was very likely that he would be pierced by the long sword. After all, the cloud on the other side of the iron chain bridge was dark red, so its power must be extraordinary. I need to control more power of heaven and earth. Luli thought of using heaven and earth force to suppress the cloud. The speed of the clouds gathering slowed down and the sword was still coming. He understood that the amount of power of heaven and earth he could control was not enough. If he could control more power of heaven and earth, he might be able to walk over easily, and the sword array would not be able to do anything to him. Seclusion. Luli went back to closed-door cultivation after he sorted out his thoughts. He hadn't mastered the fundamental principle of force of heaven and earth yet. As long as he kept on, he could borrow more force from heaven and earth. If I integrate the power of heaven and earth into the space twist, the power will be doubled. Luli thought of another possibility. When he released the space twist, there was a strong force of space. By then, he could kill all the mighty warriors in the divinity, no matter how many there were. What was more, if the force of space was strong enough to suppress the super mighty warriors in the divinity, he could use the space twist to strangle them to death. Ha ha! Luli had seen the horrifying power of the super mighty warriors in the divinity. Before he made a move, the super mighty warriors in the divinity had already sensed it. As soon as Luli made his move, the super mighty warriors in the divinity must have dodged or killed him already. Back at the Valley of Ghost King, the old man who plotted against Luli was able to break his space twist easily. That horrifying whirlwind enveloped Luli. He could not move at all. That feeling of helplessness still lingered in his heart. There were billions of immortals in the divinity, but there were only 1,000,000 immortals on the list and only 10,000 super mighty warriors in the divinity. The data should not be accurate. Many super mighty warriors in the divinity might not be on the list. But even if the data was multiplied by 10 times, there were only 100,000 super mighty warriors in the divinity. Any super mighty warrior in the divinity could not be underestimated. Those people had climbed out from piles of corpses time and time again. Every one of them had their own unique and powerful skills. Let's not think about it. I will study the fundamental principle of space first. When I can borrow enough power of space, I will be able to cross the iron chain bridge. I wonder if I can get out after I cross the iron chain bridge? Luli calmed himself down. He could not forget how long he had been in there. Was it 6 years, 7 years, or 8 years? How was the situation outside? Had that lovely little girl grown up? How was she doing now? Luli did not know. He did not dare to think too much. Otherwise, he would be distracted in cultivation. By then, it would be more difficult for him to get out. Luli had been in the Ghost King Hall for 7.5 years. The massacre shrine was still the same. Apart from the number of over 30,000 people and Chun, you becoming a mighty warrior in the divinity, there were not many changes. The Pan-King flag was still planted on the Kunlun mountain. No one dared to mess around in the massacre shrine. That young master you had returned from the Jade Pool 2 years ago. But the moment he returned, he went into closed-door cultivation and did not come back to the massacre shrine. It was as if he had given up on pursuing Qi Shi. Pan Yuqin had also returned a long time ago. After she returned, she went into closed-door cultivation as well. It was said that Pan Yuqin had obtained an ageless fruit. Not only could this fruit make one immortal, it also contained some sort of bizarre heaven and earth Tao charm. Pan Yuqin went into closed-door cultivation. If she did not completely refine the fruit, she would not come out. 1 month later, Qi Shi came out. The moment she came out, the entire massacre shrine was in an uproar. Because Qi Shi had broken through to the divinity realm, furthermore, her body was completely grown. The moment she came out, many of the males in the massacre shrine were stunned. The heavens were very fond of Qi Shi. Although they had taken away her father's life, they had given her a beauty that could topple the world. Especially the indifference emitted from her bones, which made her seem like a goddess from the 9 heavens. She gave people a feeling of nobility, holiness, and inviolability. When many of the gang members saw Qi Shi standing outside the castle, they felt ashamed of their inferiority. This is an extremely pure snow lotus. No one was willing to get close to her, afraid that she would be tainted by the filth of the mortal world, not to mention blasphemy. Uncle Shi, Uncle Yu, hello everyone. Qi Shi looks at Zhao Shi and the rest and smiles sweetly like a blooming snow lotus. Everyone's face involuntarily turns into a smile as they feel that their soul was baptized by this smile and became pure. After greeting them, Qi Shi's leg pushes off the ground and floats down Kunlun Mountain like a gust of wind. Her speed is like a ghost, causing Zhao Shi and the rest to be unable to react. Stop chasing. You will not be able to catch up to me. By the time Zhao Shi and the rest react to chase, Qi Shi had already floated down Kunlun Mountain. Her gentle and firm voice rang out, Uncle Shi, don't worry about me. Shi has already grown up. I will make a trip to the Ghost King Palace. I will go and find Big Brother. Chapter 1475. To Ghost King Hall. Qi Shi's words caused Zhao Shi and the rest's expression to change. Luli was still in Ghost King Hall, and Qi Shi was going to court death? If Luli came out and Qi Shi died in there, Luli would probably tear them apart. Rongjing, Zhang He, the 2 of you will hold the fort at Kunlun Mountain. Chun Yu, let's go. Zhao Shi waved his hand and shouted, Everyone, listen up. Level 1 alert. Before we return, no one is allowed to leave the mountain. With that said, Zhao Shi and the rest did not care about the bewildered gazes of the gang members on the mountain as they rushed towards the northwest. Before leaving, Zhao Shi activated the Skylock formation to prevent the martial artists in the hall from moving around. Swish, the 2 of them reached their top speed but were still slower than Qi Shi. The 2 of them were bewildered. The 2 of them had reached the almighty realm of the God realm for a period of time, and they were still slower than Qi Shi, who had just broken through? It could only be said that Qi Shi's comprehension of the true meaning was very powerful, and this lass's talent was too heaven-defying. Qi Shi was not even 20 years old this year, and she had already reached the almighty realm of the God realm. She could be considered as an exceptional talent in the entire land of Yuyan. Wow, young lady Shi'er's speed is so fast. And what did young lady Shi'er say just now? She wants to go to Ghost King Hall? Heavens, is young lady Shi'er taking things too hard? That's not right. Young lady Shi'er said that she is going to look for her brother? Isn't her brother the Hall Master? Could it be that the Hall Master is currently in Ghost King Hall? The mountain became bustling as people gathered in twos and threes. Luckily, most of them did not know that Shi-Er's brother was Luli. Otherwise, there would be a commotion. The remaining Almighty from the God Realm, Rongjeng, glanced around and shouted, "All of you, shut up and do what you should be doing. If you are going to be so long-winded, all of you can go and mine for 1,000 years." With Rongjeng's shout, the entire mountain quietened down. Rongjeng was the famous black-faced king of hell. Anyone who offended him would be severely punished. The people on the mountain quickly dispersed, but the messages were still spread out, causing the entire massacre shrine's morale to waver. Any sect, faction, or army had a leader, and the leader was the soul of the army while Luli was the soul of the massacre shrine. Luli had not appeared even once in all these years. Many of the gang members already had all kinds of ideas. At this moment, they were all panicking. Zhao Shi and Chen, you no longer care about Massacre Shrine. The two of them raised their speed to the limit, hoping to block Qi Shi before reaching Ghost King Valley. Chen Yu was fine, but Zhao Shi treated Qi Shi like his own daughter. He watched her grow up, so how could he watch her die? Qi Shi dares to go out? Hurry up and report this to the young master. This is a great opportunity. What Zhao Shi and the others didn't know was that there were two translucent people hiding in a mountain to the west of Kunlun Mountain. The two of them saw Qi Shi leave and saw Zhao Shi and the others rush over. Their faces were instantly filled with joy. The two of them discussed for a while. Then, one of them transformed into a fox and gave chase. His speed was no slower than Zhao Shi's group. The other person rushed in another direction, holding a jade talisman in his hand and crushing it. Qi Shi's thoughts were very pure. This little girl had many beautiful human qualities when she was very young, such as innocence, kindness, beauty, strength, and so on. For so many years, she didn't have any contact with outsiders. Thus, she had always maintained these beautiful qualities. Her mother never cared about her. When her father died tragically, she was still very young, and her heart was at its weakest. Lu Li's appearance and his pampering of her made her transfer her feelings for Qi Junfeng over. In her heart, Lu Li was both a father and a brother. There was also an indescribable feeling in it. There were many things that she didn't know. She only knew that Lu Li stayed because of her. He helped her when she was at her toughest. He stood by her side when she was at her most helpless. Qi Junfeng was dead, and she thought that Lu Li was her only relative. Now that she had become stronger, and Lu Li was trapped in a cage, how could she watch by the side? She raised her speed to the limit. She knew that Zhao Shi and the others would definitely chase after her. She comprehended a type of wind attribute true meaning, and her speed was faster than the average almighty in the God realm. She also comprehended a type of light attribute true meaning, and her lethality was not bad. She had a pure mind and was confident that she could deal with all difficulties after entering the Ghost King Palace. The Kunlun Mountain was not far from the Ghost King Palace. In just one day, she arrived at the Valley of Ghost King. When she saw that nobody was standing outside the Valley of Ghost King, she put on a smile of relief. Zhao Shi and the others couldn't catch up with her. She could enter the Ghost King Palace, find Lu Li and save him. Ha ha! Before she could rush into the fog, a faint laughter came from inside. Following that, a handsome man dressed in embroidered clothes with a jade-like face and elegant demeanor walked out. He was accompanied by an old man whose aura was as deep as the sea. Shockingly, he was a super almighty from the God world. Lady Shi'er, we meet again. Young master Yu walked out, and when he saw Qi Shi'er, he was stunned. It was like seeing Qi Shi for the first time. His heart was pounding. Qi Shi's beauty took his breath away. Qi Shi didn't dress up in any special way. She was wearing an average white dress and her hair was combed into a crescent bun. She only had a green belt around her waist. She didn't wear any jewelry. Young master Yu didn't think she was shabby. Instead, he thought it was inappropriate for Qi Shi to wear jewelry. No jewelry or jewelry could match her. She was the most dazzling jewelry in the world. Qi Shi was almost 17 years old. She was at the age where she was about to bloom. She had a graceful figure and a delicate face. Her temperament gave people a sense of holiness and inviolability. She was a piece of pure jade without any blemish. Young master Yu had seen many girls over the years. He had seen many beautiful young ladies. Apart from Pan Yuqin, he thought all the other young ladies were worthless. Compared to the girl in front of him, they were like flowers and leaves. Not only young master Yu, even the old man nodded to himself. This girl was a masterpiece of heaven. Heaven loved her so much that all the good things were given to her. Qi Shi looked awful. She didn't expect that Zhao Shi and the others wouldn't catch up. How could they, coincidentally, run into young master Yu here? She felt disgusted seeing how young master Yu was looking at her. Her expressions grew cold. She said indifferently, "Young master Yu? I still have matters to attend to. I shall take my leave first." Qi Shi did not wish to speak to young master Yu anymore. She tapped the ground with a single leg and floated towards the valley like a swallow. She wanted to find the entrance of Ghost King Hall and enter. Ha ha ha! Young master Yu smiled faintly as a trace of resolution appeared in his eyes. Originally, he had not made up his mind. After all, Massacre Shrine was Pan Yuqin's territory. Right now, he could not care so much. He gave a signal to the God World super expert behind him and said, "Miss Shi, don't be in a hurry to leave. Meeting is fate. Let's go to the nearby Star Mountain to have a drink." Swish, that God World super expert took action. He floated over like a ghost and waved his hand lightly. Qi Shi's body was actually fixed on the spot. Bang! Chapter 1476. Qi Shi was at a good realm, but she had no real battle experience. She grew up under the protection of Qi Junfeng, and Luli never allowed her to participate in any battles. Therefore, when this old man floated over, she had no idea how to deal with him. That being said, this old man was a super mighty warrior in the divinity. Qi Shi's reaction speed was nothing. Their abilities were worlds apart. Even Luli could be killed instantly. "Let's go to the Star Mountain." Young Master Jade's face showed a trace of happiness. He waved his hand and flew away. He didn't choose to return to the Overlord's manor because he was worried about Pan Yuqin. If he went to the Overlord's mansion, there would be too many people, and it would be easy for him to be exposed. The Stellar Mansion was actually a subsidiary force of the Overlord Mansion. The old man who had attacked Qi Shi was an elder of the Stellar Mansion, so bringing him back to the Stellar Mansion wouldn't be a problem. Whoosh, the old man carried Qi Shi and followed the young noble like a ghost, quickly disappearing into the distance. After the two of them left, a middle-aged man walked out of the mist in the valley, his face filled with grief and indignation. He gritted his teeth and let out a low roar, suppressing the anger in his heart. He had been hiding in the mist of the valley and had witnessed everything that had happened. Just now, not only did he not come out to help, but he also did not show the slightest bit of concern. Instead, the corners of his mouth curled up in a mocking smile. He did it on purpose. Otherwise, he would definitely be killed by the experts from Star Mansion. He could only disguise himself as a scout from a great force to avoid being killed by the experts from Star Mansion and young Master Jade. This person is the scout of Massacre Shrine that Zhao Shi had left here to monitor. The moment Qi Shi arrives, he noticed her. He was going to stop Qi Shi, but when young Master Jade and the others appeared, he didn't dare to move. What should we do? What should we do? The middle-aged scout is very anxious. To all of Massacre Shrine's martial artists, Qi Shi is their precious princess. Now that something has happened to Qi Shi, he is helpless and does not even know what to do. He knew that Luli was in the palace of Ghost King. They could not rely on Luli. Could they go to Zhao Shi and the others? But Zhao Shi and the others were so weak. Would they court death by going to the House of Stars? Thinking that the beautiful, kind, cute, and pure Qi Shi was going to be tainted by this beast, the middle-aged scout's heart burned. Qi Shi is the pure land in the hearts of all the Massacre Shrine members. That is the most beautiful place. But at this moment, she is going to be defiled by a beast. This causes the middle-aged man to wish that he could eat young Master Yu's flesh. Forget it, let's go back and report first. Although he knew that reporting this to Zhao Shi and the others might not be of any use, what else could the middle-aged scout do? Could it be that he was going to the Stellar Mansion to court death? If he could save Qi Shi by dying, he didn't mind. But with his strength, he would die for nothing. He sprinted toward the direction of Kunlun Mountain. After running for half an hour, two figures rushed over from afar like tigers and wolves. He quickly hid to the side and used his divine sense to check. When he saw that it was Zhao Shi and Chen Yu, he quickly rushed out with joy. He knelt on one knee and shouted, "Elder Zhao, Elder Chen, something happened to Miss Shi." Boom! It was as if Zhao Shi had heard a bolt from the blue. His body trembled and his face turned pale. Chen Yu looked awful as well. His face was as pale as ashes. He was thinking about how he could explain to Luli if he came out. Zhao Shi's lips trembled slightly as he said in a trembling voice, "Did Shi rush into the Ghost King Palace?" "No." The middle-aged scouts' answer cheered up Zhao Shi and Chen Yu. But what he said next made their hearts sink. Young Master Yu took Lady Shi away from the Ghost King Valley. She must have gone to Stellar Mountain. It was Patriarch Meng of the Stellar Mansion who took her away. Yu Ling Long, Meng Yen Shan. Zhao Shi's eyes were spitting fire. He was filled with killing intent. He roared and was about to rush to the south when Chen Yu stopped him. Chen Yu was calmer. He said in a deep voice, "Zhao, calm down. You will be courting death if you go to the Stellar Mansion like this. It is pointless. Shi is going to be defiled by that bastard and you ask me to calm down?" Zhao Shi turned around and shouted, "Chen Yu, let me go. You may be afraid of death, but I am not." "Zhao, I am not afraid of death. I am afraid that it will be pointless." Chen Yu didn't feel ashamed or angry. Instead, he shouted coldly, "It doesn't matter if we die. What's important is to save Shi. I know you watched Shi grow up and treat her as your own daughter. Am I not the same? I owe Hall Master Qi my life. How can I watch Shi get hurt? We have to find a way to save Shi instead of foolishly throwing our lives away." "Find a way?" Zhao Shi's breathing became slightly rapid. His expression changed a few times. He gritted his teeth and said, "The Hall Master is not here. What can we do? What else can we do besides risk our lives? Yu Ling Long and Meng Yen Shan have gone too far. I will go back and mobilize the army to attack Stellar Mansion. Even if I die, I will make Stellar Mansion pay the price. I have a way." Chen Yu's eyes turned and said, "I will mobilize the army to Stellar Mountain and bring the coiling dragon flag there. You can go to King Pan City to find young Lady Pan. As long as you can persuade her to come forward, I think this matter can be solved." Young Lady Pan? A graceful figure appeared in Zhao Shi's mind. His eyes slightly lit up and he said, "Yes, find young Lady Pan. Since young Lady Pan gave us the coiling king flag, she will definitely help us." "But," Zhao Shi said worriedly, "it will take a long time to get to King Pan City. I'm afraid we won't make it in time. If she is tainted, I'm afraid she will ask for death. That's why I have to mobilize the army to Stellar Mountain. Chun Yu said calmly, I will bring the coiling king flag and set up camp at the foot of Stellar Mountain. Yu Ling Long won't dare to act recklessly before the matter is settled. I will delay him for a while. You go and return quickly. All right. Zhao Shi nodded heavily. He threw his token to Chen Yu and flew off. As he ran, he roared, Old Chen, if anything happens to Shi, we have to kill Yu Linglong even if we have to risk our lives. Otherwise, we won't be able to face the old hall master after we die. I know. Chen Yu nodded his head and waved his hand at that scout. You can continue to stay in Ghost King Valley. Finishing, Chen Yu turned around and flew away. After traveling for half a day, he returned to Kunlun Mountain. The moment he reached Kunlun Mountain, he immediately pulled out the coiling king flag and shouted, Everyone, gather at the foot of the mountain, now. Rongjing flew over, and Chen Yu took out Zhao Shi's token and said softly, Something happened to young lady Shi. We need to go and save her. This time around, it is more dangerous. Rongjing, if you do not wish to go, you can stay in Kunlun Mountain. I'll go. Rongjing is Zhao Shi's sole slave. When Chen Yu took out Zhao Shi's token, Rongjing still wanted to show off. How can he shrink back now? He immediately flew over and gathered the experts of Massacre Shrine. Chapter 1477. Star Mountain. Over 30,000 soldiers were bewildered. Chen Yu couldn't be thinking of leading everyone to attack the Star Mansion, right? That was a high-grade force that had two super-almighty existences from the divine world. However, Chen Yu was the battle hall master, so Rongjing had no objections. Furthermore, Chen Yu was holding on to Zhao Shi's token, so no one dared to say anything. Tens of thousands of people began to march in silence, all the way to the Star Mountain in the south. Mount Xingqian was not too far away from Mount Kunlun. If it was only Chen Yu, it would only take him a day and a half if he ran at full speed. Now that there were tens of thousands of people marching, the speed would naturally be affected. It would probably take 3 to 5 days. The movement of Massacre Shrine immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding powers. Especially the nearby 6 middle-rank powers, as well as those small powers who were badly frightened. In the eyes of the nearby middle-rank forces, Massacre Shrine is an overlord. These few years, the 6 forces have been treading on thin ice, afraid that Luli would bring his army over and crush them into powder. Previously, Massacre Shrine moved once, but they only subdued a few small powers in the vicinity. Right now, this is the first time Massacre Shrine is moving out on such a large scale. If one were to say that they are only pulling them out for a stroll, even if one was beaten to death, they would not believe it. The Moon Wheel Palace was the most afraid. When many Moon Wheel Palace cultivators received the news, their first thought was to flee. The Full Moon Palace only had 1 Divine Realm martial artist, while Luli had 4. This was not counting Qi Shi. There was no way they could fight this battle. However, Yuan was able to keep his composure. He immediately sent someone to the Stellar Mansion to ask for help. At the same time, he activated the formation and prepared to defend to the death. After Yuan failed to attack Massacre Shrine, he took the initiative to submit to Star Hall. He was afraid that Luli would attack the Full Moon Palace. Even though the Full Moon Palace had to pay a huge amount of divine sources to the House of Stars every year, the Full Moon Palace had the backing of a major force. The Star Mansion was not far to the south of the Full Moon Palace. The Mansion Master of the Star Mansion was shocked when he received the news. Although Massacre Shrine is a middle-grade power, the Star Mansion Master does not treat it as a small power. One had to know that the King Pan flag was planted on Kunlun Mountain. That was almost like an imperial sword. Star Mansion's mansion head Meng Yenyun immediately sends people to inquire about the news, wanting to see what is wrong with Massacre Shrine. Soon, someone came back to report a piece of news, which made Meng Yanyan so angry that she almost jumped up. Not long ago, Yu Linglong and Meng Yanshan returned with a peerless beauty. At this moment, Yu Linglong had even brought that peerlessly beautiful woman to a castle in the backyard. It was obvious that he was going to do something improper. Someone, let the young lady go see young Master Yu and stall him for half a day. Meng Yanyan rolled her eyes and passed down an order. Before he is clear of Massacre Shrine's goal, he cannot let Sir Jade succeed. Otherwise, if something big happens, he will implicate Star Mansion. If it was someone from another faction, then so be it. Even if it was the young mistress of the Heaven Emperor Palace, Jiang Yi wouldn't care if Yu Linglong wanted to play with her. At the very most, he would just ask the Heaven Emperor Palace to look for trouble with the Overlord Manor. Massacre Shrine is different. Pan King flag is planted on Kunlun Mountain, which represents Pan King's will. If the Pan King's mansion became enraged because of this, it was unknown whether something would happen to the Overlord's mansion, but at the very least, the Stellar Mansion would be annihilated. Therefore, Meng Yanyan didn't dare to gamble or offend young Master Yu too much. She could only let his granddaughter stall for a while. On the other side, young Master Yu was not in a hurry to take action because Qi Shi was still unconscious. He felt that there was no mood and no meaning. Thus, he sat there quietly and waited for Qi Shi to wake up. Looking at Qi Shi at such a close distance, his heart became more and more excited as his breathing became hurried. Thinking of the scene of Qi Shi waking up and having fun under his crotch, his blood started to boil. Knock, knock, knock. A series of knocking sounds came from the door, and young Master Yu's expression turned gloomy. He swept out with his spiritual senses and shouted, "What's the matter? Didn't I say earlier that I am not meeting anyone?" "Young Master Yu," the maid outside reported respectfully, "Young Lady Yan is here. She says that she wants to discuss some matters." "Young Master Yan?" Young Master Yu's expression turned heavy. This is Meng Yanyun's granddaughter. Usually, she had always been aloof towards her. There were many times when she wanted to get her hands on her, but young Lady Yan never allowed her to do so. Why did she take the initiative to come over now? "And you let young Lady Yan wait. I will come over immediately." Young Master Yu scanned Qi Shi with his spiritual senses and realized that she might not wake up anytime soon. After thinking for a moment, he placed one hand on Qi Shi's forehead and poured in some divine power, using a special method to seal Qi Shi's divine power. This way, even if Qi Shi woke up, she wouldn't be able to escape. He tidied up his clothes and walked out. Young Lady Yan was rather good-looking. She was over 30 years old, but her appearance was no different from Qi Shi's. Her strength had also reached the Almighty of the Divine Domain and was considered one of the top-notch young ladies. In the past, young Master Yu had always felt that young Lady Yan was not bad and had wanted to get her many times. It was a pity that young Lady Yan wasn't a casual person. She had vaguely expressed that unless young Master Yu officially married her to the Overlord residence, she would never have sex with him. When young Master Yu saw young Lady Yan's beautiful face today, no matter how he looked at it, it was a little lacking. Young Lady Yan was indeed beautiful, but it didn't make young Master Yu develop an intense desire. He originally wanted to play with this woman, but now, he didn't even have the mood to do so. Young Lady Yan sensed the change in young Master Yu's attitude towards her, and the smile on her face became even denser as her attitude became more relaxed. Her words and actions had some obscure teasing. If it was in the past, young Master Yu would have been teased to the point that his body would be burning with lust. But now, he did not have any reaction. While they were chatting, young Master Yu was slightly absent-minded and even had a slightly impatient look. If it was in the past, young Lady Yan would have retreated unhappily. But now, she had a mission to delay young Master Yu for an afternoon. Thus, she could only use all of her skills to delay young Master Yu. On the other side, Meng Yanyan quickly found out the accurate news that Massacre Shrine's army had already passed by Full Moon Palace and are heading straight for Stellar Mountain. Their goal is very clear, which is to target Stellar Mountain. Meng Yanyan called Meng Yanshan over, and Meng Yanshan did not hide anything as he revealed Qi Shi-er's identity. He also did not expect that Massacre Shrine would have such a huge reaction and actually turned out in full force, putting on an attitude like they want to risk their lives against Stellar Mountain. Meng Yanshan originally did not think much of it. It is only a lass. If young Master Yu wants to play, what can he say? After all, if something happens, isn't there Overlord residence? Now, he was starting to regret it. Chen Yu had come with the Pan-King flag. What if Chen Yu led his men to attack the mountain? Should they retaliate or not? If he counterattacked, if he destroyed the Pan-King banner, wouldn't Pan-King Mansion be enraged? Old Eighth, you're so silly. Meng Yanyan paced back and forth in the main hall a few times before she finally made up her mind and said, that lass Yan is currently delaying young Master Yu. Immediately secretly move that last Qi Shi-er away and lock her in the dungeon. As long as nothing happened to this lass, at least the situation could still be salvaged. In addition, he sent someone to the Overlord Manor to report this matter to Manor Head Yu. If Mansion Master Yu does not care, we will hand him over to Massacre Shrine. If Residence Lord Yu interferes in this matter and Pan-King Manor blames us in the future, it will have nothing to do with us. Chapter 1478. To be able to become the manor head of Star Manor, Meng Yanyan is naturally not an idiot. There is no benefit in doing this. If he does something wrong, he will have to bear the risk of being exterminated. Meng Yanyan is not that foolish. Right now, doing this will only offend young Master Yu. So what if he is offending a young master? After all, he is not the true higher-ups of Overlord Manor. Meng Yanshan takes action and sneaks into the room. He brings Qi Shi-er away and locks her in the dungeon. At the same time, he uses a special communication array to inform the manor head of Overlord Manor of this matter. After Miss Yen drags on for half a day, young Master Yu can no longer take it and sends her off. Having achieved her goal, Miss Yen leaves with a smile. Young Master Yu anxiously enters the room, but in the end, Qi Shi-er has disappeared. Killing intent soars from young Master Yu. If he still does not know that it is Star Manor's doing, then he is an idiot. Miss Yen had been talking nonsense for the entire afternoon without any substantial matter, making him feel that something is wrong. How could a living person go missing in Mount Xingchen? Other than Star Manor's doing, there is no other possibility. Whoosh, Meng Yanshan floats in time and smiles bitterly at young Master Yu. Young Master Yu, don't be angry. We also have our difficulties. Massacre Shrine has mobilized all of their people and should be able to reach Stellar Mountain in a few days. If this matter can be settled, I will personally send that lass to your bed. Massacre Shrine? What is that? Young Master Yu raises a cup of tea and smashes it on the ground. Who knows if it is because of his anger towards Massacre Shrine, or is it for Star Manor to see? Or perhaps it is both. He sneers coldly at Meng Yanshan. A middle-grade power can scare you to this extent? You two brothers only have this kind of future prospects. Meng Yanshan's expression changes and says coldly, if it is an ordinary power, then so be it. But Kunlun Mountain has the Pan-King flag. Young Master Yu, you need to think for us. What's wrong with the Pan-King flag? Young Master Yu's expression turns especially gloomy as a fierce glint appears in his eyes. His handsome face becomes distorted as he snorts. Is it because Kunlun Mountain has the Pan-King flag that they can attack all the other powers? Just by carrying the flag, they can take down Overlord Manor? This flag was planted without a name. This was Pan Yuqin's personal action and had nothing to do with Pan-King Manor. If Pan King Mansion dares to stand up for Massacre Shrine, all of the major powers will be unhappy. At that time, Pan King will not be able to suppress the situation. That's true, but hee. Meng Yanshan smiled faintly and did not say anything else. The hidden meaning was that the Overlord's manor was a big family with a lot of assets, and the God World's paragons weren't afraid of the Pan King's manor, but their stellar mansion was just a small shrimp. The Pan King's manor could casually dispatch a single person to destroy the stellar mansion, send a message to invite Uncle Chang over. Young Master Yu waves his hand and says with seething killing intent, "When the people from Massacre Shrine come over, there is no need for you all to take action. I will let Uncle Chang do it. No matter how many people from Massacre Shrine come, I will kill them all. I don't believe that Pan Yuqin will really ignore the big picture and dare to kill me." Alright. Meng Yanshan felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He had been waiting for these words. Young Master Yu has a personal bodyguard, Uncle Chang, who is a super expert in the God world. But some time ago, he had gone to do something in secret. Since young Master Yu agreed to take action, it is no longer related to Stellar Mansion. At that time, when the people from Pan King's manor come, they will have an excuse. Meng Yanshan went down and sent a few pretty maids to help young Master Yu vent his anger. Young Master Yu is also impolite and tortures the maids until they are hovering between life and death, tormenting them for the entire night. On the other side, Massacre Shrine's army marched day and night. After passing through Full Moon Palace, they headed straight for Stellar Mountain. A lot of people start to feel apprehensive in their hearts. If they were to attack a middle-grade power, no one will think much. Instead, they will be very excited. But right now, Chen Yu seems to want to pull everyone to attack a high-grade power? Is Chen Yu crazy? Is he thinking of pulling a group of people to die? There are at least 50 to 60,000 martial artists in Stellar Pavilion. Furthermore, there are over 10 experts from the God World and 2 super experts from the God World. If these tens of thousands of people rush over, it will be like a mantis trying to stop a chariot or an egg smashing a rock. But these few years, Massacre Shrine's martial artists have a very strong sense of belonging to the shrine. After all, there is no other power that treats its members so well. Chen Yu and the rest's prestige is very high, thus for the time being, no one questions them. If they are really going to attack Stellar Mountain, there will definitely be a lot of people who will feel apprehensive in their hearts. 3 days later, the army reaches the foot of Stellar Mountain. A lot of martial artists start to feel apprehensive in their hearts. Some of them even planned to escape the moment the situation is not right. Luckily, Chen Yu did not give the order to attack. Instead, he stationed the army 1,000 miles north of Stellar Mountain and planted the Pan King flag on it. Seeing the Pan King flag fluttering in the wind, a lot of people's hearts indescribably calmed down. Furthermore, Chen Yu's expression is calm and has the demeanor of a great general. This temporarily stabilizes the army's morale. After Chen Yu reached this side, he did not do anything. He did not even send any emissaries to Stellar Mansion. He only set up camp here. He believes that Stellar Mansion has already received the news and saw the Pan King flag. After entering the territory of Stellar Mansion, they did not meet with the army's obstruction. Chen Yu is clear that Stellar Mansion has some misgivings. Chen Yu is waiting. He is waiting for Zhao Shi's side, waiting for Pan Yuqin to take action. He is only here to put on a show so that young Master Yu and the people of Stellar Mansion will not dare to touch Qi Shi. Meng Yenyun is also waiting. He also did not send any emissaries to negotiate with Chen Yu. He only sent some scouts to monitor the situation. He is waiting for young Master Yu's bodyguard, Uncle Chang, to come over. He is also waiting for Prefecture Lord Yu's reply. He is also waiting for Pan King Residence's response. Since Chen Yu is not attacking the mountain, he will pretend that he did not see anything. Bang bang bang! Zhao Shi knelt down heavily in front of Ye Kai in one of the side halls of Pan King Hall. Ye Kai's expression is a little unnatural. He reached out to help Zhao Shi up and said, "Elder Zhao, it is not that I do not want to help you. It is just that young mistress is in deep seclusion. No one is to disturb her. Even if we want to report, we can enter." Bang bang bang. Zhao Shi continued to kowtow heavily. If he was not afraid of damaging the floor, he would have kowtowed with all his might. He looked at Ye Kai pleadingly and said, "Lord Yi, please help me. Think of a way. Shi-er is the Hall Lord's younger sister. If something happens to her and the Hall Lord comes out, I will not have the face to see him. I can only kill myself as an apology." "Come out," Ye Kai repeated the word to himself. He forced a smile to himself. How many years had it been since Luli was in there? If he could come out, he would have come out by now. It was because Ye Kai suspected that Luli could not come out that he didn't want to go to Pan Yuqin. Of course, Pan Yuqin was in deep seclusion. It would be difficult for Ye Kai to go and report. What if Luli really comes out? An idea came to Ye Kai's mind. After a while, he made up his mind and said, "Get up. I will try my luck and see if I can inform young mistress. If I cannot, then there is nothing I can do." "Thank you, Lord Yi." Zhao Shi kowtowed again. Ye Kai left quickly and went to a huge manor in the back. He came back in less than an hour. He shook his head and sighed. "There is nothing we can do. The castle that young mistress lives in has activated the inhibition formation and there are guards outside." Pan King said in person that nothing can disturb young mistress when she is in closed-door cultivation. Plop, Zhao Shi had just stood up when he knelt down again. His face was filled with despair. Who else could save Qi Shi without Pan Yuqin? Chapter 1479. Luli was still in closed-door cultivation. He had no idea what was going on outside. He did not know that his beloved Qi Shi was suffering and could be defiled at any time, but he woke up 5 days after the army of the massacre shrine arrived at the Stellar Mountain. When he opened his eyes, he was filled with excitement. After cultivating for such a long time, he finally had a breakthrough. His control over the force of space was much stronger than before. Before, he could only borrow the force of space with a radius of 1 mile. Now, he could at least borrow the force of space with a radius of 3 miles. His control over the force of space was much stronger. It was like a person who had learned the fundamental principle of fire. He could control any kind of fire. Suppress. Luli did not do anything strange. He simply raised his hand. There was no movement in heaven and earth. Blood Fairy only felt an invisible force pressing down. She realized that the immortal's body could not move at all. "Master, your control over the force of space has improved." Even though she did not know the details, Blood Fairy could tell that Luli had made great progress. Luli grinned and nodded. "Let's go and have a try." Luli walked toward the abyss. Along the way, he sensed his divine energy and physical body. Once again, he exclaimed that this was a land of treasures. Cultivating here was too fast. His divine power and fleshly body were growing too fast. He had been here for over 7 years, but he felt he was progressing faster than when he stayed outside for 100 years. Arriving at the abyss, Luli did not take the risk himself. He took out the silver whip and let the immortal's body move forward. The immortal's body strode toward the iron chain bridge. 30 feet later, the force of heaven and earth suddenly descended. Clouds and smoke came into being and formed into sword. Suppress. Luli waved his hand. An invisible force came and suppressed an area with a radius of 1 mile. The immortal's body could not move, nor could the clouds and smoke in the air. The sword stopped in the air as if space had been frozen. "Good." Luli nodded. He waved his hand again. The suppression disappeared. Luli pulled the immortal's body back. He said, "Okay, I will walk in front. You control the immortal's body to follow me." "Master, be careful," Blood Fairy said. Luli smiled confidently. His control over spatial force was too strong. He was confident that he could control all the clouds and space around him. Luli strode forward. He had only moved for 30 feet when an invisible force came down on him and the immortal's body. Luli did not mind. He circulated the divine energy in his body in a strange pattern. Soon, he could move his hands again. With a wave of his hand, he cracked the seal using spatial force. Whoosh, whoosh in midair, the sword formed from clouds and smoke began to cut down. Luli waved his hand. This time, space began to tremble. A spatial force that was 10 times stronger than before pressed down, suppressing the clouds and the long swords. "Let's go." Luli grabbed the immortal's body with one hand and moved forward. He was not affected by spatial force, but the immortal's body could not. Fortunately, he was strong enough to easily grab the god's corpse and walk forward. Luli did not move fast. He walked forward step by step. In the distance, the clouds and smoke were like startled wolves. They formed swords and dashed toward Luli. However, every time Luli was within 1 mile of the clouds and smoke, Luli would wave his hand and the swords would stop. They were suppressed by spatial force. "I can use spatial force now. I think I can even stop a super mighty warrior in the divinity," Luli exclaimed to himself. His steps were steady. In the time for half an incense stick to burn, he had crossed half of the iron chain bridge. The clouds and smoke were getting thicker. However, no matter how thick it was or how many swords there were, Luli could stop them easily. It was as if there was an invisible force field around Luli. Everything within 1 mile of him could not move, not even the wind. The last part is the most difficult. As long as I can make it through this part, I will have passed the level. Luli did not gloat at all. He stared at the last part of the iron chain bridge. The smoke over there was reddish-brown in color, which was horrifying. It was up to him to see if he could stop it. Step by step, Luli slowed down. Finally, he reached the last part of the bridge. The clouds and smoke over there were stirred up. They turned into reddish-brown swords and flew toward Luli. Luli slapped with one hand and shouted, "Suppress!" Space began to tremble. A surge of violent force came. Luli's heart was in his mouth. If he could not stop it, he would have to cultivate again, and he did not know how long that would take. "Okay, soon," Luli shouted. The reddish-brown swords were not completely suppressed, but they were slowed down. Without any hesitation, Luli seized the opportunity. He mobilized divine energy and sped up. Then, he dashed forward like a sharp sword. 500 feet, 300 feet, 100 feet, 50 feet. Right when Luli was about to cross the iron chain bridge, the space around him began to tremble. Luli's spatial force disappeared. Then, the reddish-brown swords were coming at him, and the immortal's body from all sides. "Master, let's go." When Blood Fairy noticed that the immortal's body could move, she slapped Luli's back without any hesitation. Then, she controlled the immortal's body to fly up and fend off the swords. Bang, 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 Luli heard some shrill noises. He turned around and saw that the immortal's body was smashed away. Luli used psychic power to check. He was shocked to see that many scales on the immortal's body were cracked. If it were not for the fact that Blood Fairy had controlled the immortal's body to fend off the swords, the immortal's body would have been pierced through. Fortunately, Blood Fairy reacted quickly. Just now, Luli was about to use spatial force to stop the swords. If he had done that, he would have been slower and would have died a tragic death on the iron chain bridge or in the abyss. Phew, phew, Luli breathed heavily. Making sure that nothing was happening on the iron chain bridge, Luli asked, "Blood Fairy, is the immortal's body destroyed?" "There's some damage. Some of the arrays inside have been damaged," Blood Fairy replied, But don't worry, Master. I can repair the formations and the scales. I just need time. It's okay. Take your time. We are here. Luli was relieved. The immortal's body's strong defense was like a shield that had helped him many times. If the immortal's body was destroyed, Luli would have lost a powerful helper. What? Luli checked. Up ahead was another valley, but the valley was divided into two. There were two paths. Can it be? Luli was excited. He waved to the immortal's body and strode forward. At the fork, he picked a random path. In a moment, he had reached the end of the valley. The altar. Chapter 1480. Luli did not enter the teleportation formation at once. Instead, he observed the surroundings carefully. Then, he left this tunnel and entered another one. As Luli had expected, there was a door at the end of the tunnel. The door should lead to the next level. Luli told the immortal's body to push the door open, but it did not budge. If I want to go to the next level, I have to figure out a way to crack this door. Luli exclaimed. Without any reluctance, he turned around and walked toward the other tunnel. Luli was not interested in what was behind the door or how many levels he could reach to get the treasures of the Master of Ghost. The first 3 levels almost cost Luli his life. He would be committing suicide if he were to go to the later levels given his current abilities. Luli chose to go because he could come to the Hall of Ghost at any time and he could leave after passing the first 3 levels. Therefore, he could not wait to go out and see if the Hall of Massacre Shrine was safe. He arrived at the altar. Still, he was not in a hurry to open the altar. Instead, he told Blood Fairy to reach her tentacle into the altar. What if the Master of Ghost had set up a trap? What if this teleportation formation was to teleport to the underworld? Blood Fairy took back her tentacle after a while and said to Luli, "Master, everything is normal. This is a teleportation formation. Let's go." Luli did not hesitate. He went into the altar and poured out divine energy. The altar began to glow. After a flash, Luli and the immortal's body vanished into the altar. Buzzing, the space in the Valley of Ghost trembled. Then, Luli and the immortal's body came out from thin air, which startled the scouts outside. As soon as Luli came out, he used psychic power to check. He was relieved to find that there were only some scouts nearby. Luli paid no attention to those scouts. He put away the immortal's body and flew out of the valley. The longer he stayed here, the more the news that he came out would spread. What? The scouts of the major forces did not know that Luli had entered the palace of Ghost King. Therefore, they were surprised and confused as to where Luli came from. What? At the same time, Luli had just arrived at the entrance of the valley. He sensed a familiar figure with psychic power, but he did not dare to take it for granted. He didn't dare to admit it. That man was stunned for a moment. Then, he ran over with joy, dropped to one knee and said in a choked voice, "Grand Master, you are finally out." Luli finally dared to confirm that this person is indeed from Massacre Shrine. He has a vague impression of him. He sensed a divine sense probing out from the valley, so he waved his hand and said, "Let's talk outside." Luli rushed out and the middle-aged scout followed him out of the valley. After arriving at a small hill, the middle-aged scout knelt down again and hurriedly said, "Hall Master, please go back and have a look. Something has happened to Miss Shier." What? Like a thunderbolt, Luli trembled just like Zhao Shi. His eyes grew cold as he asked, "What is going on? Tell me." "I don't know the details. I have been waiting here for years. Half a month ago, Lady Shier arrived. I was about to stop her when young Master Yu of the Overlord's mansion appeared. Later on, Patriarch Zhao and the others came. I heard that they were going to mobilize all the troops to the Stellar Mountain." The middle-aged scout told Luli everything he knew. The more Luli heard, the worse his expression became. He was filled with murderous intent. After hearing the last word, Luli had already flown towards the south, leaving behind a sentence: "Don't stay here anymore. Go back to Massacre Shrine. Tell the people staying at Kunlun Mountain that I am back." "Okay." The middle-aged scout nodded. Luli's words of "I am back" somehow put him at ease. It was as if with Luli around, nothing would be a problem and nobody would dare to find trouble with Massacre Shrine. Whoosh, Luli flew for dozens of miles. The cloaking armor appeared over his body, and he flew at his top speed. He didn't take out the immortal's corpse because his divine energy was abundant and his physical body had improved. His speed was no slower than the immortal's corpse. Actually, he could fly in the void. It was just that the stellar mountain was not far from here. If he flew in the void, he would have to cross a prefecture's distance. He was afraid that by then, he would be even further away from the stellar mountain. Hang in there. I will be there in a day at most. Luli took out the map and took a look. With his current speed, he could reach there in a day. However, when he thought about how Chi had been kidnapped for half a month, his heart sank. Chi must have been defiled a long time ago. When he thought about how that lovely girl was defiled, Luli was filled with anger. He clenched his teeth and shouted, "Young master, you right? You better protect Shir. Otherwise, I will think of a way to wipe out your entire family." The battle at the Stellar Mountain had yet to start and she did not reply. Even if Chun Yu and the rest had 10,000 guts, they wouldn't dare to attack the mountain. On the contrary, more and more people were panicking because the Stellar Mansion had mobilized their army to confront them. Although they did not charge down the mountain, they had already set up a battle formation. The change in Stellar Mansion's attitude originated from a message from the Overlord Mansion's master. The Overlord Mansion's master did not give any order. He only sent over a sentence: "I understand." Just a few words, but it carries a lot of meaning. The Overlord Mansion's master, Yu Qingtian, indicated that he knew about this matter but did not give any instructions. This meant that he had tacitly approved of this matter. This also meant that he had tacitly approved of Yu Linglong's actions. He had tacitly approved of Yu Linglong provoking Pan Yuqin. Since Yu Qingtian indicated that he was willing to shoulder this matter, Meng Yenyun had no choice but to show some attitude. Of course, he still did not dare to send out his army to attack. Instead, he was waiting for Uncle Chang to come over and for King Pan's mansion's reaction. As long as Uncle Chang attacks the soldiers of Massacre Shrine, and as long as no one from King Pan Palace comes out to help Massacre Shrine, that would mean that King Pan Palace would not care about this matter. When Yu Linglong knew that Yu Qingtian had sent over a message, his confidence increased greatly. He keeps clamoring for Stellar Mansion to lead a team to attack. He is also not stupid. If Stellar Mansion takes action, at the very least, if anything happens in the future, he can find a scapegoat. It is a pity that Meng Yenyun is unmoved like a mountain. Even if he offends Yu Linglong, it does not matter. He will not be used as a spear by others. The crucial point is that if he becomes a spear, he will not have any benefits. During sunset, a mysterious expert suddenly climbs up the mountain. Uncle Chang had finally rushed back from the far south. Yu Linglong instantly became spirited and called Meng Yenshan over to let him and Uncle Chang lead a team to exterminate Massacre Shrine tomorrow. "Yes, young master." Uncle Chang looks very old and his back is arched. He did not hesitate before agreeing. To him, Yu Linglong's order is an imperial edict. Furthermore, didn't Yu Qingtian send a message over to tacitly approve of this matter? Fine, then. Meng Yenshan clenches his teeth and agrees. But he secretly decided to let Uncle Chang kill for a while. As long as no one from King Pan Palace comes, he will lead a team to kill and exterminate all the people from Massacre Shrine. Chapter 1481. At daybreak the next day, Star Mansion's side starts to get busy. Meng Yanyan personally commands while Meng Yanshan deploys troops and gets a few experts from the God Realm to lead the troops to the sides, preparing to surround the people from Massacre Shrine. Star Mansion wants to show some attitude to Overlord Mansion. Thus Meng Yanyan considered for an entire night before deciding to surround the people from Massacre Shrine. As long as Uncle Chang takes action and the people from Pan King Mansion do not interfere, then they will not have any worries and will start the battle. Yu Linglong woke up early in the morning with a radiant expression. He takes out a silver sword and prepares to take action personally. Killing thousands of enemies in the morning and sleeping on a beauty's lap at night. This is the most ideal life in his heart. He is prepared to kill to his heart's content before enjoying Qi Shier's devastatingly beautiful body at night. Sir, it is best if you don't take action. This old servant will settle this matter beautifully. Uncle Chang leans on a walking stick and looks so old that he cannot even walk. His eyelids are drooping and he looks lethargic like he will enter the grave any moment. No worries. Jade Young Master waves his hand and says, Massacre Shrine is just a group of clay chickens and pottery dogs. There are only 2 experts in the God Realm. How can they injure me? The Heavenly Emperor armor on me is comparable to a saint artifact. Unless it is a super expert in the God Realm, no one can kill me. Uncle Chang thinks for a while, and feels that this is logical. The experts in the God Realm are basically unable to kill Jade Young Master. If it is a super expert in the God Realm, who would dare to kill Jade Young Master? No one can bear the price of Yu Qingtian's wrath. After all, Yu Qingtian is the ruler of the God Realm. Late in the morning, Meng Yanshan returns. He nods his head towards Jade Young Master and says, Sir, it has been arranged. All the paths have been blocked. No one can escape. Then what are you waiting for? Kill. Jade Young Master reveals a sinister smile as he unsheathes his sword. This sword is exceptionally bright and has the aura of a sword light that can chill the 14 continents. Dense killing intent soars from his body as he kicks off with a single leg and flies down from the Star Mountain like a fierce bird. Uncle Chang's drooping eyelids suddenly open as a sharp glint appears in his blurred eyes, just like when Jade Young Master unsheathes his sword. His walking stick lightly touched the ground, and the stone slabs on the ground cracked into pieces. He glanced at Meng Yanyan and Meng Yanshan indifferently. His body fluttered lightly and quickly caught up to young Master Jade. Old Eighth. Meng Yanyan didn't think much of it. When the 2 of them rushed down, he shouted in a low voice. Meng Yanshan took out a giant axe, waved his hand and said, Descend the mountain, set up the formation. Meng Yanshan didn't say anything about attacking, only about setting up the formation. It was clear that he was going to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. He led the 10,000 soldiers down like a tide. Tens of thousands of people galloped together. The momentum was too strong, like a monstrous wave that could topple mountains and overturn the seas. Swish, 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 Massacre Shrine's several tens of thousands of experts have a huge change in expression as they look at the tens of thousands of people rushing down from the mountain. Looking at Jade Sir and Uncle Chang, who are like 2 sharp swords stabbing into the army, a lot of their teeth start to tremble. 2 Deity World Super Almighties, 7 or 8 Deity World Almighties, and more than 10,000 soldiers. Not counting the 10,000 soldiers, just the 2 Deity Worlds Super Almighty Experts and 7 or 8 Deity Worlds Almighty Experts could easily wipe out all of them. Sigh. Chen Yu's expression did not change much. He stood under the Pan King flag and locked his gaze on Jade Sir with killing intent. He sighed in his heart and was already in despair. If Pan Yuqin was willing to help, she should have arrived by now. As long as Pan Yuqin sends a word, Meng Yanyan would obediently send Qi Shier back. Nurture an army for 1,000 days to use it for a single moment. Hall Master has treated us well. Right now, Lady Shi-Er is in the Star Mountain, and she is suffering from endless suffering. Even if we risk our lives in battle, we must save Lady Shi-Er. Kill! Chen Yu roared out with all his might. He carried the Pan-King flag, and took the lead to fly forward. His back view was filled with determination. Rongzheng, who was behind him, clenched his teeth and followed behind. At the same time, he roared out, "Brothers! Even if we die, the bird will face the sky. For Lady Shi-Er, for Hall Master, let's fight! Fight! Kill!" 2,000 of Massacre Shrine's most senior martial artists roared out as well. A lot of them knew that Qi Shi-Er had met with a mishap, and Chen Yu intentionally spread it out. Naturally, it is to incite everyone's common hatred for a common enemy. Qi Shi-Er's beautiful face appears in the minds of a lot of people. Seeing Chen Yu and the rest charging forward, the blood in everyone's body starts to boil as they roared and charged forward. Kill! Most of the Massacre Shrine's martial artists' blood was ignited as they charged forward. More and more people followed, and only 3,000 to 4,000 people's eyes darted around as their footsteps slowed down. And Jade Sir, who was flying down from the sky, sneered. When he was still over 10 miles away, the sword in his hand lit up, and he suddenly slashed forward. A sword light descended like the Milky Way and swiftly extended over, arriving in front of the army. Bang! The army was like a pancake as a whole was split open by this shocking sword light. A row of dozens of martial artists were killed on the spot, and a lot of people were sent flying by the sword chi. The scene was in chaos. Die! Uncle Chang followed closely behind and released his attack. He brandished the crutch in his hand and did not make any fancy movement. He just waved it in front of him. Chi La! A few hundred illusions of crutches appeared and turned into a few hundred enormous dragons as they charged towards the army. An earth-shattering pressure came crashing down. The martial artists who were still madly rushing over were all dumbfounded. Many people were suppressed by the pressure to the point where they couldn't move. They could only watch as hundreds of earth-yellow dragons came crashing down. Finished, Chen Yu looked at the enormous dragons in the sky in despair. The little bit of morale that he had just gathered was completely shattered by the enemy in a single move. The difference in realm is too big, and the difference in strength is like heaven and earth. Don't talk about the God World experts behind him. Just Uncle Chang alone can easily sweep away everyone from Massacre Shrine. Boom, 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 a few hundred enormous dragons whizzed down, and the martial artists on Massacre Shrine's side instantly died. Every enormous dragon would cause an intense explosion, taking away dozens of lives and injuring hundreds of people. Escape! Quickly escape! If we do not escape, we will all die here. Where's the Hall Master? Why has Palace Master not appeared yet? Could it be that Palace Master has abandoned us? The remaining soldiers no longer have any fighting spirit. Uncle Chang killed 2,000 to 3,000 people with 4,000 to 5,000 injured. How are they going to continue fighting? After a few rounds of Uncle Chang's attacks, everyone died. No one wishes to die, and naturally, they will have thoughts of retreating. Meng Yanshan saw that Jade Young Master and Uncle Chang had taken action, but there were no movements in the surroundings. He also did not receive any signal that there were experts coming to help. He made his decision and waved his hand as he roared, "Kill! Don't let a single one of them off." The moment Meng Yanshan gave the order, all the martial artists from Star Mansion who were hiding in the surroundings moved out. Martial artists as far as the eye could see rushed over and surrounded the Massacre Shrine's martial artists as they started a brutal massacre. It is unknown if it is because Chen Yu is carrying the Pan-King flag or something else, but Jade Young Master, Uncle Chang, and the rest did not attack him. He rushed to the front, and at this moment, the enemies have already rushed over. However, he no longer has any thoughts of counterattacking. Looking at the martial artists who had collapsed, His face is filled with grief as he roared in his heart, "Palace Master, where are you? If you still don't return, Massacre Shrine will be exterminated today. Yu Linglong Meng Yenyun." At this moment, an earth-shaking and incomparably furious voice came from the northwest. The cold killing intent in that voice caused all the martial artists from Star Mansion to tremble. The voice continued to ring out, "If I do not kill all of you today, my surname is not Liu. Palace Master." Chapter 1482. Luli traveled day and night, but he was still late. The warriors and scouts outside could not stop him. He flew into the battlefield like a breeze. He used psychic power to check, and his eyes turned bloodshot. There were more than 30,000 warriors wearing the standard armors of the Massacre Shrine. Now, there were more than 10,000 on the ground. Many of them were familiar to him. For example, Zhang He, the patriarch he had chosen, was on the ground now. He was cut in half at the waist. "Grand Master! Grand Master! Grand Master! Grand Master! Grand Master! Grand Master!" Qin Yu shouted. Many experienced warriors who knew Luli shouted as well. Then, everyone followed suit. To many, Luli was the symbol of invincibility. It was as if with Luli around, there was nothing to be afraid of, and he could kill any enemy. Their voices echoed through the clouds and shook the ground. Many warriors of the Mansion of Stars didn't dare to move. They all looked at the white-haired young man who was rushing over. A mighty warrior from the divinity? Some warriors of the Mansion of Stars sensed and found that Luli was only a mighty warrior from the divinity. They sneered. There were more than a dozen mighty warriors from the Mansion of Stars and 2 super mighty warriors in the divinity. Wasn't Luli courting death by coming alone? Charge! Some warriors were filled with killing intent. This Grand Master seemed to be arrogant. He said that he wanted to kill Meng Yenyun and young Master Yu. Who did he think he was? Hundreds of warriors moved toward Luli quietly, trying to kill him. However, before they could get close to Luli, he took out the Demon Slayer and swung it at them. A ray of sword light in the shape of a half-moon whooshed over. A situation that caused many of the soldiers nearby to be bewildered appeared. The several hundred soldiers suddenly stopped moving, and like living targets, they took on that huge saber light. Bang! The power of the saber light was not very great, but it still killed dozens of soldiers and sent the remaining soldiers flying. Ha ha! In the distance, Uncle Chang, young Master Yu and Meng Yenshan saw this and sneered. Luli was just an average mighty warrior from the divinity. Apart from courting death, it was meaningless for him to come alone. Kill him! In front of Luli was a mighty patriarch from the House of Stars and the divinity. The patriarch waved his hand and led over 1,000 warriors toward Luli. As far as he was concerned, Luli was just SOSO, and he could kill Luli easily. Die! Luli bellowed. Then, an invisible force came down. None of the warriors could move. This time, Luli made 2 moves. There were no blade rays flying out of the 2 blades. Only 2 spatial ripples spread out one after another and poured into the front of the over 1,000 soldiers. Bang 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 bang, a scene that shocked Meng Yenyun, young Master Chang, young Master Yu, and Uncle Chang appeared. As the 2 spatial ripples spread out, the thousands of soldiers in front of them all exploded into minced meat. The deity world's almighty elder from the stellar mansion also couldn't block it, and his body exploded in an instant. SS. The sound of people sucking in a breath of cold air could be heard. He had killed more than 1,000 soldiers with a single move, and one of them was even a supreme being from the immortal world. What was even more bizarre was that the more than 1,000 people seemed to have turned into idiots at that moment. Their bodies were motionless, as if they were waiting for death. Hall Master is mighty. Chen Yu's blood was boiling. Seeing how brave Luli was, he shouted excitedly. The Massacre Shrine's warriors beside him also raised their arms and shouted, "Hall Master is mighty, mighty!" Bang, 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 Lu Li's massacre had not ended yet. He dashed over like lightning and made 2 consecutive slashes to the left and right. 2 spatial ripples spread out, and the warriors on both sides were like harvested rice, exploding into minced meat. 2 moves and another 2,000 were killed. Lu Li was like an unstoppable war machine, and his massacre speed was too fast. If he were to continue like this, the 80,000 over Stellar Mansion's warriors wouldn't be enough for him to kill for an hour. Meng Yanshan was anxious as he shouted, "Retreat to the sides." As he spoke, he flew over and swung his axe at Lu Li's direction. Meng Yanshan's attack was very unique. On the surface, it looked like there was only one axe shadow, but behind it was a long axe shadow. When the axe shadow at the back chased after the axe shadow at the front, it would be like a monstrous wave. Each wave was faster and stronger than the previous one. This was a type of water true meaning that Meng Yanshan had comprehended, and he had comprehended it to a very profound level. He had a total of 99 axe shadows, and the later the axe shadow was, the more powerful it was. Once a person was hit by the first axe shadow, the axe shadow at the back would follow. Each axe shadow was faster and stronger than the previous one. It was already not bad for an average almighty being in the divinity realm to be able to block 30 axe shadows. Lu Li felt the overbearingness of this attack. He looked at the axe shadow and felt as if he was being pressed by a mountain, and he couldn't breathe. Suppress. He suddenly struck with his palm, and the space in front of him trembled violently. Following which, a powerful force of space pressed down and enveloped an area with a radius of 1,000 feet around Lu Li. Swish, swish, after the axe shadow entered the space that was suppressed by Lu Li, its speed became extremely slow, at least 100 times slower. On the other side, Lu Li moved away easily. By the time the axe shadow chopped down, his body had already drifted to the side for miles. Meng Yanshan is startled. Jade Gentleman and Uncle Chang, who are far away, are also astonished. After Jade Gentleman killed over a dozen of Massacre Shrine soldiers, he asks in bewilderment, "This is the true meaning of time? Doesn't look like it." Uncle Chang shook his head. His eyes flickered and said, "It should be space true meaning." The space was suppressed by him, so Meng Yanshan's attack speed became slower. A trace of brutality flashed in young Master Yu's eyes as he snorted, "Uncle Chang, go and kill him. My mission is to protect you." Uncle Chang shook his head and sent a message, "Young Master, this person has a close relationship with Lady Pan. He also has King Pan's token. It is better to let Meng Yanshan do it. Later on we can find a scapegoat." King Pan's token. Young Master Yu's heart skipped a beat. Not many people knew that Lu Li had King Pan's token. Super forces like the Overlord's mansion could find out easily. His handsome face was twisted. He stared at Lu Li with fire in his eyes, as if he was wondering what was so good about Lu Li. Why did Pan Yuqin love him so much? King Pan's token and King Pan's flag. Was Lu Li really Pan Yuqin's lover? Courting death. Meng Yanshan saw that Lu Li was about to start killing warriors of the Mansion of Stars. Meng Yanshan dashed over like a mad dragon. He wanted to get close to Lu Li and kill Lu Li with his most powerful move. He could tell that Lu Li seemed to know some kind of space true meaning. Long-range attacks could not kill him. Therefore, he wanted to get close to Lu Li and kill Lu Li with his axe. What could Lu Li's space true meaning do to him? Super mighty warriors in the divinity were fast. In an instant, they caught up with Lu Li. Meng Yanshan's axe glowed in black and red as he hacked at Lu Li's head. Ha ha! Chapter 1483. Lu Li had been waiting for the arrival of super mighty warriors from the divinity. He would not be able to survive if several came at once. Therefore, he must have a strategy to lure them over one by one. As a matter of fact, Luli could have suppressed the axe shadow with spatial force, but he did not. He slowed down the axe shadow, which gave Meng Yanshan an illusion. Luli had learned a spatial fundamental principle that could slow down attack. Therefore, to kill Luli, Luli had to get close. Once Luli got close, Luli would have a chance. Luli could borrow more spatial force now. He might not be able to suppress the super mighty warriors from the divinity, but he could slow them down while Luli's speed would not be affected. Therefore, within the range of spatial force, Luli would not feel much pressure when facing the super mighty warriors from the divinity. Hoi! As he spoke, Luli waved his hands. The space nearby began to tremble. Following that, a surge of horrifying energy came down, enveloping Meng Yanshan and the hundreds of warriors nearby. How Meng Yanshan's eyes went round. He felt like he was being crushed by several mountains. It was very difficult to move. Even moving a finger was very difficult. He could not believe it. How could a warrior from the divinity learn such a powerful fundamental principle? Space twist. Almost without any hesitation, Luli swung the demon slayer in his hand. He made 2 moves in a row and 2 ripples spread out in space. Space twist and space force did not conflict. Meng Yanshan watched as the ripples spread out. The space around him was twisting violently. Then, a surge of horrifying spatial force appeared. Bang bang bang, his armor cracked. His body was covered in blood. For the first time there was fear in his eyes. He screamed with all his strength, "Lord Chong, brother, save me!" Hiss hiss, the surrounding Star Mansion's soldiers stopped attacking. Everyone's gaze and divine telekinesis were locked on this side, and their faces were filled with shock. Meng Yanshan was not a super mighty warrior from the divinity, but he had been one for hundreds of years. How could he not be a match for a mighty warrior? Stop! A furious roar rang out from the stellar mountain. An old man dressed in luxurious robes flew over like an eagle, his robes fluttering in the wind. He roared again in midair, "Palace Master Lu, we can talk things over. Don't kill." The answer to Meng Yanyan was a sneer. Luli released Space Twist again and 2 ripples spread out. The space around Meng Yanshan twisted again. This time, Meng Yanshan couldn't hold on any longer. His fleshly body exploded layer by layer, turning into flesh and blood that splattered everywhere. At this moment the whole place suddenly quietened down. It was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. Nearly 100,000 people on the plains stopped moving. Their gazes and divine senses were locked onto the sky full of flesh and blood. That was a super almighty of the god realm. That was the world's top-notch martial artist. Any higher and they would be the god world supremes, who were almost immortal. Battles broke out in the land of Yuyan at all times. Many forces were destroyed and countless martial artists were killed. However, it was very difficult for the super mighty figures of the immortal world to die. Only one would appear occasionally. Now, yet another super almighty from the god world had died. Moreover, he had died at the hands of a nameless young man. Moreover, he had died at the hands of an almighty from the god world. Meng Yanshan died casually. It looked like Meng Yanshan just stood still and was hacked to death by Luli in 2 moves. Break out of the encirclement and retreat towards Shrine Master's side. Chen Yu suppressed the agitation in his heart and wiped away the tears in his eyes before quietly giving the order to retreat. He was a qualified hall master of battle and knew that they cannot continue to fight. Luli killing a super mighty figure of the god world had shocked everyone present. They must seize this opportunity to retreat behind Luli. This way, they would not drag Luli down and affect his performance. Shrine Master is mighty, mighty, kill! Chen Yu roared and led the troops to charge towards Luli. The remaining 10,000 over people of Massacre Shrine followed behind them like sharp swords. The Stellar Mansion's soldiers at the front were badly frightened as they instinctively retreated to the side. They did not dare to block the morale of the massacre shrine soldiers. The 10,000 over people easily broke out of the encirclement. Young Master Yu and Uncle Chang did not obstruct them. Meng Yanyan was still staring at the sky full of flesh and blood. They did not care about the massacre shrine soldiers, as they only had Lu Li in their eyes. If they did not kill Lu Li, even if they killed all 10,000 over soldiers, it would be useless. Similarly, if they killed Lu Li, where could these 10,000 over soldiers escape to? After killing Meng Yanshan, Lu Li carried his demon slayer and walked towards the direction where the massacre shrine soldiers came from. He was wearing the sky blue thunder armor. His face was grave and stern like a mountain. His eyes were as sharp as a knife, and there was even a faint red glow in his eyes, making him look like a god of death. Eighth brother. When the massacre shrine soldiers converged with Lu Li, Meng Yanyan let out a sorrowful roar. But he did not act impulsively and did not charge towards Lu Li stupidly. He was very clear that his own combat power was not much stronger than Meng Yanshan. Lu Li could kill Meng Yanshan in 2 moves. Killing him would not be a problem. He looked towards young Master Yu and Uncle Chang and said with a face filled with grief and indignation, "Young Master Yu, Lord Chang, please help 8th brother." Meng Yanyan's meaning was very clear. He requested Uncle Chang to join hands and kill Lu Li. He even vaguely reminded them that this matter was caused by young Master Yu, and they could not ignore it. Uncle Chang was slightly fearful. His mission was to protect Yu Linglong. Now that Lu Li possessed the combat power to kill a super-powerful existence in the divinity, if young Master Yu was killed, it would be useless even if he cut Lu Li into pieces. "Chief Meng, don't worry." Before Uncle Chang could say anything, Yu Linglong said loudly, "Massacre Shrine took the initiative to provoke us first. Now that their shrine master even killed Grandpa Yanshan, how can we sit by and do nothing? Even if this matter is blown up to the Pan-King residence, we are still in the right. Just now, he even said that he wanted to kill me. Humph, if I don't kill him, I will not rest." Yu Linglong's voice was very loud and resounded in the surroundings. All of the soldiers could hear it clearly, causing the soldiers on Massacre Shrine's side to be filled with righteous indignation. Yu Linglong was inverting black and white, pointing fingers at a deer and calling it a horse. He had done evil and still wants to put the blame on others. "Retreat for 50 miles and form a formation to protect yourselves." Lu Li waved his hand and used an unquestionable tone to order Chen Yu and the rest. He was very satisfied with what Chen Yu did just now. With the people from Massacre Shrine retreating, he no longer had any worries and could use all of his methods to kill to his heart's content. Retreat. Chen Yu did not dare to question Lu Li's order and immediately passed down the order. The army retreated quickly, but they did not retreat too far. They rushed to a small hill 50 miles away and started to form a defensive formation. Lu Li did not make any movements. After Chen Yu and the rest retreated, he carried the Demon Slayer saber and walked forward step by step. He stared at Yu Linglong and said, "Young Master Yu of the Overlord residence, right? Do you think that no one dares to kill you because you have a supreme martial artist in the divinity as your grandfather? I will say it again, if I don't twist your head off and kick it like a ball, my surname is not Lu." One man and one saber facing tens of thousands of soldiers, the two super-powerful existences in the divinity did not feel any fear. Instead, they felt that Lu Li was suppressing the tens of thousands of soldiers with his imposing manner. "Uncle Chang, kill him!" Chapter 1484. Uncle Chang was hesitating. According to his principles, he should leave with young Master Yu and stay out of this. However, young Master Yu was so persistent that he was shouting hysterically. Uncle Chang didn't want to disgrace young Master Yu. What was more, young Master Yu's grandpa, Yu Qingtian, was a supreme warrior in the divinity. He was a well-known powerful warrior at the entire Yuyan land. Uncle Chang believed that Luli would not dare to kill young Master Yu. Not even Pan Yuqin would have the guts to kill Yu Linglong, let alone Luli. Therefore, when Uncle Chang saw Yu Linglong's red eyes, he made up his mind and looked at Meng Yenyun, who was waiting for Uncle Chang to make a move. Seeing Uncle Chang, Meng Yenyun nodded. Whoosh! Almost at the same time, they dashed toward Luli from the left and right. Meng Yenyun even winked at some patriarchs from the divinity, who ordered warriors from all sides to launch long-range attacks at Luli, trying to interfere with his judgment. Swish, swish, more than 10,000 people attacked at the same time. It was a magnificent scene, colorful and splendid. Many of the attacks were so powerful that they caused space to tremble. It was a frightening sight. Unfortunately, as soon as the attacks were within a mile and a half around Luli, they would slow down and disappear. They could not hurt Luli one bit. Luli walked on with the demon slayer in his hand. He kept his eyes on Uncle Chang, who was coming, and didn't even look at Meng Yenyun. To Luli, Meng Yenyun was not a threat. Uncle Chang was. Meng Yenyun felt she was being belittled. She took out a golden bow and pulled it. The space around her began to tremble. A black arrow appeared out of thin air and shot toward Luli like a bolt of lightning. The arrow was so fast that it was only a mile away. In an instant it was only a mile and a half away from Luli. Still, Luli didn't look at Meng Yenyun. He waved his hand and a surge of spatial force was released. The arrow slowed down by more than 10 times. Luli sped up and dodged the arrow easily. Hoi! On the other side, Uncle Chang made his move. He waved his walking stick forward. Hundreds of shadows of the walking stick appeared in the air and transformed into many brown dragons. All of them swarmed towards Luli. Luli smiled lightly. How horrifying were the swords transformed from the clouds and mist on the iron chain bridge. Uncle Chang's attack looked overbearing and terrifying, but he could easily suppress it with his spatial power. Uncle Chang's attack looked overbearing and terrifying, but he didn't feel any pressure. Luli waved his hand and a surge of more horrifying spatial force came down. The hundreds of dragons slowed down when they were about a mile away from Luli. Luli himself sped up and dodged Uncle Chang's move. Boom, boom, boom! When Luli dashed over, the spatial force disappeared. Hundreds of yellowish dragons whooshed down and smashed into the ground. They left many pits on the ground, stirring up dust and covering the sky. It was a magnificent scene. The warriors around him were still pouring out all kinds of attacks. Luli felt like he was passing through a field of flowers without being touched by a single leaf. No matter how many attacks flew at him, they would slow down when they were half a mile away from him, and he could easily dodge them. Meng Yenyun and Uncle Chang looked at each other from afar. Both of them released 2 long-range attacks, but they couldn't do any damage to Luli. If they wanted to kill Luli, they would have to do it at close range. They looked at each other and communicated with their eyes. Then, they took actions at the same time. They flew toward Luli, one on the left and the other on the right. They wanted to kill Luli at once. Luli's spatial power was strong, but could he suppress 2 warriors at the same time? What was more, they noticed that Luli's spatial power could only cover a radius of half a mile. They were going to move closer to Luli and then launch a pincer attack. As long as their attacks could land on Luli, he would be killed even if he had a supreme relic armor. Good! Luli put on a smile when he saw the 2 of them coming at him from the left and the right like swords. Just now, he had limited the range of his spatial power to half a mile just to lure the 2 warriors out. As a matter of fact, his spatial power could cover an area with a radius of 3 miles. Of course, the closer the warrior was, the stronger the pressure would be. If the warrior was within 3 miles, the pressure would be too weak to contain 2 super mighty warriors in the divinity. 1.5 miles, 1.5 miles. Luli secretly calculated the distance between them. When the 2 of them were about half a mile away from each other, Luli stuck the slaughter god's sword into the ground and waved his hands to the side. An invisible force radiated to all directions and instantly enveloped an area with a radius of 2 miles. What? Uncle Chang and Meng Yinyun were taken aback. Meng Yinyun felt she could not move at all. Uncle Chang was fine. He could move, but his speed was slowed down. Hoi! The walking stick in Uncle Chang's hand glowed. It changed its shape into a spear. The spear was strange. It was divided into 4 parts and each part was of a different color. The spearhead was of a different color, which made the spear look strange. Go to hell, Uncle Chang bellowed. He moved the spear and stabbed forward. Space was torn apart. Luli felt the spatial power was messed up. He could no longer suppress the 2 warriors. A sense of fatal danger emerged from the depth of Lu Li's soul. He had thought he could kill Uncle Chang and Meng Yinyun slowly after they were suppressed. But now it was too late. Uncle Chang was so powerful that he could break free from Lu Li's spatial power. Uncle Chang was only 3 miles away from Lu Li. For a powerful warrior, this distance could be crossed in an instant. At this critical moment, Lu Li made up his mind. 2 wrath of thunder appeared in his hands. He poured divine energy into them and detonated them. He threw them toward Uncle Chang and Meng Yinyun from both sides. Once the 2 wrath of thunder were thrown out, Lu Li's identity would be exposed. But he couldn't worry about that now. If he didn't take action now, he would be turned into a dead body the next second. It was too late to suppress with spatial power. The only thing he could save himself now was the wrath of thunder. What? Uncle Chang and Meng Yinyun's expressions changed drastically when they saw the 2 glowing elliptical spheres. Both of them were powerful warriors who had climbed out from a pile of corpses. Their instincts were strong. They sensed fatal danger in their souls. The only thing they could think of was to run. Swish, swish, the wrath of thunder exploded in midair. Thunderbolts swept across. Uncle Chang and Meng Yinyun were right next to the wrath of thunder. No matter how fast they were, how could they run away? In addition to them, the thunderbolts covered an area with a radius of 3 miles, including tens of thousands of warriors. What happened next was horrifying. Yu Linglong's body and soul were trembling. The tens of thousands of warriors were turned into ashes in an instant. Most of them didn't even have the time to scream. Several mighty warriors in the divinity were killed as well. As for Uncle Chang and Meng Yinyun, they didn't suffer the same fate. Uncle Chang was better. He managed to hold on for a while, and then he shouted in pain in the air. As for Meng Yinyun, she could only hold on for the time for a few breaths before she was charred and fell to the ground. Wrath of thunder. Lu Li, young Master Yu suddenly came to his senses. The wrath of thunder was famous. Given his status, it was natural that he had heard of it. He had heard of Lu Li's deeds in the divinity as well. Therefore, he was terrified. This man was audacious. He dared to go against the craftsman's sect in the divinity. He even dared to kill the vice-clan master of warfare of the craftsman's sect. Young Master, you might die here today. Run back to the Overlord's mansion. After a moment of hesitation, young Master Yu flew downward, trying to sneak away in the chaos. Chapter 1485. Every martial artist would encounter strong enemies in the process of growth, and they would encounter enemies that they could not deal with at all. Most people would choose to endure when encountering such a situation. They would choose to lay low and wait for the day when they became stronger to take revenge. There were also some who chose to settle debts of gratitude and enmity with great vigor. Even though they knew that they could not fight the enemy, they still chose to face the difficulties. This kind of person would either die very quickly, or have heaven-defying luck and luck, successfully overcoming difficulties time and time again. Clearly, Lu Li belonged to the latter. Whether it was in the mortal world or the divinity, Lu Li had chosen to rise to the challenge and deal with it later. Back in the Heaven Reverse universe, at first, he fought against the Samsara Palace. Later, he fought against the 9 universes. When he came to the divinity, he fought against the craftsman's sect. Every time, he risked his life and dragged the emperor down. Therefore, young Master Yu's decision was the right one. When Luli had nowhere to vent his anger, he would not care how powerful the overlord's mansion that young Master Yu was in was, or whether young Master Yu's grandpa was a supreme warrior in the divinity or how powerful he was. His decision was correct, but the problem was that Luli had been watching him. Luli said that he was going to twist off his head and kick it like a ball. How could he let him escape? Whoosh! Young Master Jade had just sneaked away when Luli rushed over like a gust of wind. Young Master Jade had made the wrong choice. If he had taken out the flying phoenix at once and run away openly, Luli might not have been able to catch up with him. He thought that Luli wasn't paying attention to him and decided to sneak away. Luli sped up to the top of his speed. He was not far away to begin with, so he soon closed the gap. Suppress. Luli's spatial energy could suppress an area with a radius of 3 miles. When he was 3 miles away from young Master Yu, Luli used his spatial energy to suppress young Master Yu. Young Master Yu, who was sneaking on in the distance, was slowed down. No. Young Master Yu was terrified. He looked back at Luli, who was running over, and said, "Luli, you cannot kill me. My grandpa is Yu Qingtian, a supreme warrior in the divinity. My Yu family has followed the Pan-King manor for many years. If you kill me, you won't be able to live either." Luli didn't reply. His eyes were as cold as steel, like a beast that was about to devour someone. Young Master Jade felt cold all over. He didn't hesitate any longer. A jade talisman appeared in his hand, and he suddenly crushed it. This jade talisman was given to him by Yu Qingtian to protect his life. If he was in danger, Yu Qingtian would know immediately. If he was lucky and Yu Qingtian was not in seclusion, he would definitely come over immediately. His luck was pretty good. The winds and clouds above the 9 heavens suddenly changed, and the spiritual chi of heaven and earth gathered rapidly. Then, a blurry face condensed in midair. Distraction? Luli frowned in disgust. He had seen this several times, and he hated it when old bastards came and used their avatars to oppress others. That face was very blurry, but one could vaguely make out that it was a dignified old man. Although the face was blurry, one could feel that his eyes were exceptionally sharp, and no one dared to look directly at him. The moment this face appeared, a faint pressure spread out. The pressure was not heavy, but it made people feel that it was irresistible and undefeatable. "Grandfather!" Yu Linglong was overjoyed to see this face. He shouted in surprise, "Grandpa, this lunatic killed Uncle Chang and wants to kill me. Kill him now." To Yu Linglong, Yu Qingtian was the symbol of invincibility. As far as he was concerned, there was nothing that Yu Qingtian could not settle. Luli was just a nobody that Yu Qingtian could crush with one finger. "Shut up!" An old voice came. It was calm, but it contained irresistible majesty. Yu Linglong didn't dare to say another word. He looked at the face in midair pitifully. A gentle breeze blew by. Luli felt a strong psychic power locked onto him. Soon, Yu Qingtian's voice came. "My friend, I am Yu Qingtian of the Overlord's mansion. Linglong doesn't know any better. Can you give me some face and spare his life?" Given Yu Qingtian's status and power, many people would think that he was giving Luli face by saying this. A supreme warrior from the divinity was speaking in such a humble manner. Usually, people would be flattered and frightened. Luli snorted. Yu Linglong had robbed Qi Shi. To Luli, Yu Linglong was already a dead man. Why didn't Yu Qingtian show up when Yu Linglong was doing evil? Why didn't Yu Qingtian stop Yu Linglong and Uncle Chang from killing warriors of the Massacre Shrine at the Mansion of Stars? Why did he say that Yu Linglong was ignorant? If he spared Yu Linglong's life, who would spare his life? Luli didn't even need to think to know that Yuqingtian would not let this go. After all, he killed 2 super mighty warriors of the Mansion of Stars and Uncle Chong. Mansion of Stars was an affiliated force of the Overlord's mansion. Luli killing the 3 of them was equivalent to slapping Yuqingtian's face. The more powerful a warrior was, the more they cared about their face. The bigger the force, the more they cared about their reputation. If Yuqingtian didn't kill Luli, how could he raise his head in the land of Yuyan? He was speaking in such a humble manner just to save Yu Linglong's life. Therefore, Luli didn't answer Yuqingtian's words and continued to rush towards Yu Linglong. In midair, Yuqingtian's eyes gradually turned cold. The murderous intent emitted from his face also became more intense. He said coldly, "My friend, leave a way out for others. You have the token of King Pan. Speaking of which, we are family. I have been following King Pan for many years." This sentence carried a lot of weight. Yuqingtian stated his relationship with King Pan. If it was someone else, they would have been terrified. After all, in the southwest of the land of Yuyan, King Pan was a supreme being. Luli sneered to himself. Yuqingtian was using King Pan to pressure him. Yuqingtian didn't understand Luli's character. Luli was like a donkey. He wouldn't leave when pushed and would retreat when pushed. The more someone tried to pressure him, the more he would rebound. He stood in front of Yu Linglong for about a mile. At this distance, he could easily kill Yu Linglong, who was a mighty warrior of the divinity. Luli looked at the face in midair and said, "Mansion Master Yu, I won't talk nonsense with you. Your grandson kidnapped my younger sister and wanted to do something improper. Currently, my younger sister's life and death is still unknown. Over 10,000 people from our massacre shrine died. It is impossible for me to let your grandson off. I will give you 2 choices. Either I kill your grandson or you come and kill me. Or, I will cripple your grandson and spare his life. You can bring him back to discipline him. Other than that, you must swear an over-God blood oath to never become enemies with me and Massacre Shrine." "I did not do anything improper." Hearing that, Yu Linglong hurriedly explained, "Qi Shi'er is fine. Right now, she is still locked up in the dungeon. I swear that I did not touch a single finger of hers. That day, Yu Linglong spoke too hastily. Originally, he wanted to say that he did not have the time to succeed that day. Luckily, he was not too stupid and managed to react in time. Luli looked at Yu Linglong coldly. Seeing that Yu Linglong did not lie, he heaved a sigh of relief. However, he did not have any thoughts of changing his mind. He looked at Yuqingtian's blurry face, waiting for his decision. "Ah!" Yuqingtian laughed out loud. His laughter was filled with uncontrollable anger. He transmitted his voice over, "Good, good, good. Kid, I have been born for over 4,000 years now, and you are the first person to speak to me like this. Go ahead and kill me. I will treat it as if I don't have this grandson." Yuqingtian was extremely furious. From his point of view, he had already given Luli a lot of face, but Luli did not know when to stop. He might not have said anything, but his meaning was very clear. If Luli dared to kill Yu Linglong, then it would be a situation where he would not rest until he was dead. Swish, swish, replying to Yuqingtian was the demon slayer suddenly slashing at Yu Linglong. 2 ripples of space spread out and reached Yu Linglong in an instant. Yu Linglong only had time to let out a scream before he was minced into a mist of blood which splattered all over the sky. After killing Yu Linglong, Lu Li's expression did not change at all. It was as easy as killing an ant. He raised his head and looked at the stunned face in midair, and said indifferently, "Mansion Master Yu, as you wish." Chapter 1486. The entire place quietened down again. Everyone looked at the blood mist that filled the sky. What they felt wasn't shock, but fear. Many people were trembling as they were afraid that Yuqing would kill everyone in his rage. The supreme warrior of the divinity had accumulated a lot of power. These immortals had lived for a long time. For so many years, in their impression, the supreme warrior of the divinity was the most powerful existence in the divinity. The will of the supreme warrior of the divinity could not be disobeyed. Nobody even dared to publicly slander the supreme warrior of the divinity, let alone slapping the supreme warrior of the divinity and killing his grandson. Everyone thought that Luli would definitely compromise with Yuqing in the end. He just wanted to extort more benefits from Yu Linglong. Unless Luli was crazy, he would not kill Yu Linglong. Not only was Luli crazy, he was also very decisive in his killing. He killed Yu Linglong without saying a word and minced him into pieces. He didn't even leave a complete body. Luli was not nervous at all, but all the warriors present were much more nervous than him. Most of them were worried and terrified. Other than being nervous and terrified, the warriors of the massacre shrine were also secretly excited and delighted. Luli had done what they didn't dare to do. He had killed someone that they didn't dare to kill. Phew, all the warriors present looked at the face in midair. Their bodies and souls were trembling. Under the accumulated power of the supreme warrior of the divinity, they had forgotten that this was just an avatar and not Yuqing himself. But even an avatar was horrifying. The skills that a supreme warrior of the divinity could master were unimaginable and terrifyingly powerful. It wasn't difficult for him to take someone's life from millions of miles away. Yuqing was astonished as if he couldn't believe that his favorite grandson had died just like this. Just now, he said those words out of anger. He thought that Luli wouldn't dare to kill him. Unexpectedly, Luli killed Yu Linglong with a raise of his hand. Good. After the time for 10 breaths, Yuqing shouted. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he stared at Luli and shouted, "Little bastard, you are not bad. I rarely get angry for the past 1,000 years. You have successfully triggered my... Alright, stop blabbering." Luli was too lazy to listen to this nonsense. He swung his demon slayer and slashed at the face in midair. 2 spatial ripples spread out and quickly arrived in front of the face. The powerful spatial distorting power immediately twisted the face into pieces. Before his face was minced into pieces, Luli said coldly, "Master Yu, I will wait for you to kill me. But once you do, the Overlord Mansion and I will be mortal enemies. I forgot to tell you that my real name is not Lu Lin. It is Luli." Bang! The face exploded in midair, which stunned everyone again. Luli was so fierce that he took the initiative to attack Yuqing's avatar. Luli. Some of them, in particular, the remaining mighty warriors from the House of Stars, had heard of Luli. But they did not know the specifics of Luli. The Luli who dared to go against Craftsman's sect in the divinity? The one who killed Prefecture Master just now was Thunder God's fury? That's highly possible. Otherwise, why would he dare to kill Yu Linglong? Heavens, we actually provoked such a malefic star? Should we run away or surrender? If we run away, will he chase after us? The remaining tens of thousands of warriors from the House of Stars were in a panic. Meng Yenyun and Meng Yenshan were dead, Uncle Chang was dead, Yu Linglong was dead, and Yuqing's avatar was shattered by Luli. If they did not do something, they would die miserably. Run, some of them still decided to run away. At first, there were several thousand of them who scattered and ran to all directions. Gradually, more and more people followed suit. Some of them knelt on the ground and raised their weapons high, expressing their intention to surrender. Luli paid no attention to the kneeling warriors. He glanced over to the ones that were running away and dashed over. He was very fast and soon, he caught up with a large group of over 10,000 people. Suppress. Luli released spatial force and suppressed the 10,000 people. Then, He released Space Twist and started a massacre. Originally, Luli did not have the hobby of massacring people. It is just that he was too angry this time. So many people from Massacre Shrine had died. If he did not massacre a batch, he would not be able to console their souls in heaven, nor would he be able to declare his fury to the various powers in the land of Yuyen. Since his identity had been exposed, and after today, the name Luli would spread throughout the land of Yuyen, then he must do something. Otherwise, in the future, everyone would be able to bully him. Over 10,000 people were killed in just dozens of breaths' time. The warriors of Massacre Shrine were all eager to give it a try. But without Lu Li's order, Chen Yu did not dare to send out the army. Lu Li was having a good time killing while Chen Yu, Rongzheng, and the rest were filled with worry. It was fine to offend a high-grade power because they had the Lock of Dragons formation which could withstand the attacks from the super-powerful beings in the divinity realm. Would Massacre Shrine be able to survive after offending a super-grade power? Furthermore, Yu Qingtian was a famous supreme warrior in the land of Yuyen. Chen Yu and the rest did not know. Right now, they could only wait for Lu Li to finish killing. Soon, Lu Li slaughtered over 10,000 people. Some of the warriors from the Mansion of Stars escaped, but most of them stayed behind. They knelt on the ground with their weapons raised. They were frightened by Lu Li. Lu Li was very fast. If he wanted to chase after them, most of them would not be able to escape. If so, they might as well surrender obediently. This way, they would have a higher chance of survival. Lu Li stopped killing. He glanced at the tens of thousands of people kneeling on the ground and said coldly, "Leave your weapons and interspatial rings behind. All of you, get lost." Bang, bang, bang. Many warriors immediately threw down their interspatial rings and interspatial weapons and ran away. Inside the interspatial rings were their accumulation over the years. There were treasures and divine sources that they had painstakingly obtained. But if they lost their lives, no amount of treasures would be of any use. Therefore, many of them were sensible and ran away immediately. In just the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, the tens of thousands of people were gone. Lu Li waved to Chen Yu and said, "Chen Yu, clean up the battlefield." Swish, swish, swish. Chen Yu came with his army at once. Many warriors were filled with excitement. There were interspatial rings and weapons everywhere. They had made a killing this time. Lu Li flew up and dashed toward the Mount of Stars. Almost everyone on the mountain was gone except for a maid and some old and weak warriors who didn't want to run. Lu Li paid no attention to them. He used psychic power to check the castles. Soon, he found the dungeon. There were inhibition formations in the dungeon. He let out the immortal's body and cracked the inhibition formations easily. He used psychic power to check and soon, he found a small room. The inhibition formations in the room were not strong. Lu Li sent his psychic power in. The room was dimly lit. A beautiful girl was sitting in the corner, hugging her knees. Her face was pale and she was trembling. There were traces of tears in her eyes. Bang! Lu Li rushed over and punched at the door. The inhibition formations in the room were not strong. Lu Li cracked them open easily. The door was opened and the light came in. The girl squinted and then looked at the door in terror. When she saw the face that had haunted her dreams, her delicate body trembled violently. Her cherry lips opened and closed a few times, but no words came out. Girl. Chapter 1487. Qi Shir could not believe it was him until she heard Lu Li's voice. She forced herself not to cry. She jumped up and threw herself into Lu Li's arms. She held on to him as if she was afraid that Lu Li would disappear the next second. Tears poured down from her eyes. She was trembling. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, she looked up at Lu Li and asked, "Brother, is it really you?" Looking at the beautiful and exquisite face right in front of him, Luli felt that God was really good to Qi Shi'er. Qi Shi'er was almost as beautiful as Lu Ling, almost flawless. It was just that her temperament and temperament were different. Qi Shi'er was more feminine and more classical. Even though he was being held by a young and delicate body, Luli did not feel any lust. Instead, he felt even more sorry for her. He really saw Qi Shi'er as his sister. He wiped away her tears and said, "It is me. I am back. I will never leave you behind again. I promise." Woo woo, the more Luli wiped Qi Shi'er's tears, the more she cried. Luli sighed. Women really were made of water. He smiled and said, "Girl, don't cry. You won't be pretty if you cry. There are many things waiting for me out there." Okay, soon, Qi Shi'er stopped crying. Luli comforted her and let her go. But Qi Shi'er was still holding on to his arm, fearing that he would disappear again. Luli patted her arm with a smile and walked out with her. Qi Shi'er was fine, which calmed his anger down. He put on a solemn expression and began to think about how to deal with the aftermath. He had killed Meng Yanshan, Meng Yenyun, Yu Linglong, and killed tens of thousands of warriors of the House of Stars. He had vented his anger and felt good. That being said, he had created endless trouble. One wrong move and everyone would die. Supreme warrior in the divinity. Luli could fight against a super mighty warrior in the divinity, but not a supreme warrior in the divinity. He couldn't count on Pan Yuqin either. Even King Pan had to show respect to supreme warriors in the divinity. Luli had slapped King Pan's face so hard and the hatred was so deep that not even Pan Yuqin could help. Luli, on the other hand, was not worried about himself. He could fly in the void. Worst came to worst, he could roam the world with Qi Shi'er and find a place to hide. The problem is what to do with so many people from Massacre Shrine? Over 10,000 people from Massacre Shrine were killed, and there are still over 10,000 people left. How is it possible for him to bring them away? Take them to the ends of the earth? Yuqin Tian could easily catch up with them and kill them all. Walking out, there are Massacre Shrine soldiers everywhere. They are starting to loot Star Mansion, taking out all of the valuable things in Star Mansion and piling them on the plaza. Luli brings Qi Shi'er outside. When Qi Shi'er sees that Massacre Shrine's army actually defeated Stellar Mansion, she instantly looks at Luli with a face full of worship. Luli didn't pay attention to Qi Shi'er. He just grabbed her hand to give her some warmth to calm her down. After the Massacre Shrine soldiers have been busy for over 2 hours emptying Star Mansion, he let Chen Yu gather the soldiers of Star Mansion. Greetings, Hall Master. Over 10,000 people knelt down on one knee. Although many of them are apprehensive, they are sincerely convinced by Luli. Especially when a lot of them had heard of Luli's legendary stories in the divinity realm. They are proud to follow a boss like Luli. Brothers! Luli swept a glance at everyone and said solemnly, "All of you have seen what happened today. I, Luli, am deeply ashamed of the death of over 10,000 shrine members. As the Hall Master, I am duty-bound. Yu Linglong is already dead, and I do not regret it. But from today onwards, Massacre Shrine will be disbanded. Chen Yu, distribute all of the spiritual materials and treasures here to everyone. Everyone can disperse and escape. I will go and distract the attention of the Overlord Mansion, giving everyone enough time to escape. In the future, if I, Luli, am able to rise up and take on the Overlord Mansion, if everyone is willing to follow me, I will rebuild Massacre Shrine and welcome everyone back anytime." Just now, Luli made a decision. Currently, Massacre Shrine cannot be left behind. Otherwise, everyone will die. Disperse everyone and let them escape from the southwest region. It is impossible for the Overlord Mansion to chase into the territories of the other god kings. The major powers there will also not sit by and do nothing. Hall Master! When Chen Yu heard that, he became anxious and immediately shouted sorrowfully, "Hall Master, my life belongs to Hall Master. Wherever Hall Master goes, I will follow. Hall Master, don't abandon me. Hall Master, we are willing to advance and retreat with you, to live and die together. Many veteran disciples of Massacre Shrine followed and shouted with determination in their eyes. Although they had not followed Luli for long, Luli treated them really well. For example, if it was not for Luli providing so many materials and god steels for Chinyu, how could he have broken through to the divinity realm so quickly? Enough. Luli waved his hand domineeringly. I have decided. Chinyu, carry out my orders. Distribute the materials and leave a portion for Zhao Shi and the brothers who stayed behind at Kunlun Mountain. After that, all of you immediately scatter and escape. I can only delay for a month. All of you should escape as far as you can. Hall Master! Chen Yu shouted sorrowfully, and his voice was choked with sobs. Lu Li's expression was like iron, and he did not have any intention of softening his heart. Chen Yu had no choice but to stand up and get busy. This time, they had obtained a lot of spoils of war, especially the interspatial rings of the tens of thousands of Stellar Mansion warriors. There were a large amount of divine source, materials and treasures inside. In addition, the treasury of the Stellar Mansion was also filled with mountains of treasures and materials. How could the accumulation of a high-rank force be belittled? Even though there were over 10,000 people on Massacre Shrine's side, after distributing the loot, everyone had obtained a large amount of divine source, materials and treasures. After distributing the loot for over 2 hours, Qi Shi'er had been standing quietly by Lu Li's side. When the loot was almost distributed, she looked at Lu Li weakly. Brother, you have chased them away. What about me? Are you going to chase me away as well? No. Lu Li smiled. I will bring you away. Follow me to roam the world. Okay. Qi Shi'er smiled sweetly and did not ask anything. To her, as long as she could follow Lu Li, it did not matter where she went. Even if she went to hell, with Lu Li by her side, she would not be afraid. Okay, let's go. After distributing the loot, Lu Li waved his hand. Chen Yu and the rest did not leave immediately. Instead, they stood there in silence and looked at Lu Li without saying a word. The expressions in their eyes were complicated. Some were confused, some were worried, and of course, most of them were reluctant to part. After all, the martial world was a long journey. They might not have the chance to see Lu Li again in this lifetime. Ha ha ha! Lu Li laughed out loud. He glanced around and said, You are all men. How can you be so wishy-washy? I, Lu Li, am not going to die. Maybe in 3 to 5 years, I will destroy the Overlord Mansion. By then, let's gather at the Overlord City. If you are not leaving, then I will leave first. Brothers, see you again. Let's go. Lu Li grabbed Qi Shi'er's arm with one hand, leaped up and flew down the mountain. Qin Yu and the rest turned around. Qin Yu got down on one knee with over 10,000 people. Farewell, Grand Master. Take care. Farewell, Grand Master. Take care. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.